Bing, bang, boom. It's the two realest dudes in the room. What happens when you bring two black guys together that are friends and just had a long days of work? You call it the chill session. You call it the chill session. Dang. Here on my left, right, I don't know. I'm not sure what directions are right now, but on the other side of this call, my boy, Black Impact. How you doing, sir? How you doing?
Yo, man, that was a pretty spicy one. I wasn't expecting that, and that was some heat. That got me a little nervous, man. I'm all
nervous.
Yeah, man. At first, I was just kind of like, all right, what's he got? And then, man, you jumped on stage like you're a rapper, man. I was like, oh shoot, I'm next up. I gotta follow this act up.
You tripping. Shoot. The blackest guy in Pittsburgh is still the whitest guy over in Texas. Let me just tell you that.
Hey, man, it don't matter, man. Nobody knows on YouTube, dog. I have no idea. But no,
well, I like this. Is this C?
Yeah, I'm doing good, though. But, yeah, I say we just, jump right in it.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, for the folks at home who are the first time hearing this, meeting us. So as you can see, this is really raw, off the cuff, just two bros just chilling out right now. Yep. All right. That's all it is. A little discussion,
Mm-hmm.
Something a little unwind our thoughts, because we're all gamers and fans at the end of the day.
Yep.
So that's what all it's going to be. Light discussion. Well, maybe not to be too light. Maybe a little bit.
Oh, no.
Saucy.
It's heavy. It's extra sauce, yeah. Extra cheese. I need that lettuce and tomatoes and onions and extra pickles. So I need all that.
All right, this is gonna be a podcast with the works.
Oh yeah,
it's still all good fun. All right, at the end of the day, we're all fans. We're all friends here. It's just a platform to just start a discussion.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with just talking. All right, and that's what we're here to do. Talk. Unwind. And so let's see, what do we have on the docket today? That sounds so unofficial. What do we have in our minds right now?
I don't know. What are we feeling? Docket sounded pretty good. I was like, ooh, I need to check my vocabulary. I never heard that word before. I'm behind. My man over here hooked on phonics. I'm over here.
I got my thesaurus back here.
Yeah,
Urban
man.
Dictionary has been my best friend.
All right, so here, I'll let you choose the first one, man. Whichever one's your favorite, we'll just open it up like that.
All right. Also another thing.
Mm-hmm.
I know you guys all of you will learn about us as we go.
Oh gosh, yes.
Black and I have been bros for quite some time now, I mean, it's definitely been over 5 years.
Oh yeah, it's been a hot minute.
It's been hot minute.
Mm-hmm.
Final Fantasy 14, maybe you've heard of it, pretty
horrible game.
There's a sneak peek for you.
Oh, did I give it away? Dang.
Alert. But in all seriousness, that you'll find out. There you go. Yeah, that's just a little sneak peek for how the chips may lay for some sentiments around here. Mm-hmm. But yeah, two friends coming from an MMO, as you do in 2019. Friendships can cross boundaries. Nothing about having to be face to face anymore nowadays. But yeah, let's just jump right into it. So we always like to come out here, try to do it on a weekly basis,
Yep.
But when we don't, or when we do, it usually turns into a pretty long sesh. When we call it the chill session, it usually lasts. We're talking, you better be wearing your adult diapers, because we're gonna be going for like 5 hours.
Yep. 5, 6.
But this is gonna be more bite-sized, digestible version of our talk. So don't worry, you don't have to stay too long. Grab a snack, bring your Cheetos, Mountain Dew. If that's too generic for you, bring your Starbucks. And
dang, Starbucks, man. That's for them wealthy people, man. That's for them. That's for them people with them 1,000 subscribers. That's for the big money ballers on YouTube.
So, I want to start off with what you propose, the remake and reboots topic.
Oh,
right now.
Yeah.
This is so relevant because if there's going to be any remake that we're going to be talking about right now, it's the one that has the number 7 next to it.
Oh,
and I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the old Final Fantasy 15 DLC just disguised as Final Fantasy 7.
You troll. You freaking troll, man.
I don't know, man. Every time, because I look at the trailer, right? And we've talked about it a little bit, but every time I rewatch it, and I've even had discussions like with people at like work and other places, and they're like, man, this looks so much like 15, because I think even the untrained eye can see that they're borrowing assets from 15. Granted, you know, it may not have all the same elements as 15, but I don't know. I feel like just even visually, it might put a bad taste in some people's mouths, kind of to start.
Well, definitely. If you look on the surface, you can definitely see there's similarities as far as visual, and you can chop that up to maybe Square being pretty stagnant with this visual variety.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to art styles, and I was thinking about this a couple days ago. It's like looking from the ground roots of Square and their history, their portfolio. You know, Final Fantasy 1 all the way up to 15. There's a large variety of art styles starting from 1 to about, we'll say 12. We'll be generous. We'll say up to 1 to 12. There's a stark variety of differences as far as how the art style, art direction, themes, tone across the games are widely varied. You know, if there was a soup that you did not like, don't worry. You know, the chef will send out a different bowl for you.
Yeah.
And it didn't take, 5, 6, a decade to get that game.
Right.
So you had something widely available for you, in a decent amount of time that fit your preferences and that was distinct in their own unique ways. Well, I will definitely say that 13, 15, not much really visually, and I'll even say 7 to an extent a little bit. It's that 3D age of graphics, making it really hard to distinguish, between different titles, because we've said this before in our past talks that like 13 looks good to this day.
Yeah, 13, it really does. Just like
it holds up.
Yeah, it still definitely holds up.
Now you can definitely say, well, 13 looks vastly different than like maybe 15 as far as like maybe UI developments. That's where you can see some like differences. There's some personality that shows up there because the menu UI is very metallic, non-organic, mechanical. This crystal vibe is very sci-fi. But if you strip away the UI developments, it can look kind of similar.
Yeah.
And then you jump to 15, which originally was an offshoot of 13. It was never originally to be its own standalone title. It was never meant to be a main title. It was meant to be a side game. And then goes under this transformation and turns into what we have now at 15. And pinning down what really is its art direction or tone is kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of hard because it looks kind of generic as far as personality. I may trigger some people right now, but it being its whole motto, a fantasy based off reality, kind of hurts it as far as creating its own identity amongst the vast options as far as everything else. It's building its own characteristics to make it stand out. And then you have 7, which I do see things as far as like the monster design, it carrying personality over from the original game and translating it over into the 3D title right now, this remake. I can see some differences, but as far as 3D graphics and stuff, they look very similar because they're the same era right now, and it seems like Square is sticking to a distinct look as far as how they want their games and characters to look. And I want to digress a little bit so we can get to the main point, so I don't get too long-winded here, but I think all that stuff is all surface level as far as not being able to tell this just looks like a 15 reskin. Not to defend Square Enix too much because they have to earn my respect at this point, but from being able to tell from the trailers and stuff, I don't think it's a straight rip-off copy. Besides it, of course, it has action combat, and Square not having that much experience as far as having consistently good action combat, maybe that's something we can say, can make it kind of hard to believe it's anything more, that they can think of anything with depth, as far as a combat system for 7, since their main experience was 15 in a lot of people's minds. That's a sentiment that they're going to have to get over. For me personally, from what I've seen in the trailer, I do see hints from the old battle system, but of course they're subtle. You can chalk that up to maybe they're going for a more minimalistic approach. Maybe maybe they just don't want to reveal too much before, E3, not reveal all their cards in their hands. Or maybe there's so much drastic changes from the original combat system that some things won't translate well to an action combat. So some things have to be little homages to the game itself, to the original game. So like there is materia. Materia is the biggest mechanic in 7 in the original, and you can see that in the trailer itself. Like in some screenshots you can see that they do have materia, the green orbs, the gems, whatever you want to call them, the crystals, embedded inside of Cloud's weapons and stuff. And those materia can be reserved for magic, additional skills for the characters that whoever equipped them, stuff like that. So you can also see that within the menu system that they show as well. With 15, there wasn't that much depth with this combat. It was very simple. Hold down the X button or square button, however you mapped it out, depending on what version you were playing, and you held down the button, and Noctis would just attack. Just hold that down and it would just attack. And you use the phase button, the block, I think that was like circle or something, and then it would automatically dodge for you as long as you had MP. And for the most part, it was rinse, wash, repeat, And the items and stuff, you were not restricted on what items you could use. You were freely to use any items as far as healing, reviving people. So it definitely made the game have, not so much of a learning curve. It was pretty accessible, I guess you can say, for people, not really steep or deep, to get into the combat. With 7, you can see there are the gauges, blue gauges in the menu system. I'll bring up an image as well, just so people can see. But there are segments within the command menu that are tied to the player HUD that shows, the relationship between the two, and it shows that like using and executing a command will take away from that gauge. And that, upon seeing that can suggest that you're going to be restricted as far as what skills you can use and when you can use them. The common consensus right now is that, from how it looks like in the trailer, is that you be building up your your meter by doing basic attacks. These basic attacks are not doing as much damage to the enemy, in that once you reach a certain segment of the bar, 1 segment, 2 segments, once you reach a certain limit, it unlocks an additional skill. In that, those are going to be called finishers, punishers, that you can see in the trailer as far as how they're described. And those are basically limit breaks, the limit breaks from the old game. And that's where you expend your big amounts of damage. You know, how you're going to deal lots of damage to the enemy. So there is some strategic strategy there, showing into just the little trailers right there. So I don't think it's going to be as just black and white as that. Hold down the X button and then dodge when you need to automatically. So like, it seems like you need to be careful as far as when you want to expend your punishers, your limit breaks to deal big damage, instead of just hack and slash, which people are very afraid of. That's just going to be a hack and slash game. But only time will tell. I mean, E3 is right around the corner. I know there's more that we want to get into, but what are your thoughts, I guess, real quick? Because I kind of just went off.
Well, like, as far as whenever I thought about the topic, I didn't really think about like 7 in particular. It wasn't even really about 7.
No, yeah,
it was more so about like just the fact that, so nobody asked for a 7 remake, not really. And it's like, we keep getting remakes of all these things, but they won't like just leave games and movies and like even music and just different series. They just won't leave them alone and make something fresh. So like, we're getting Aladdin, Sonic, we're getting like these reboots of these Star Wars movies, which are just flopping incredibly in theaters. Like, Star Wars is probably at its lowest low like ever in the history of that entire franchise, and it's like, it's really bad. So it's just like, I mean, sure, we can get a 7 remake, and maybe some people did ask for it, but I don't think Square needs to do this. I think they're making like a mistake.
Well, I guess at the end of the day, when it comes down to going with remakes or a reboot or something, it's down to where's the cash flow, what has succeeded in the past. And I think that's where a lot of the motivation comes from as far as remakes or reboots, you know, or just going back to old properties, is that investors and even the creators themselves, they say, okay, well, we know this sells, we need to be making some money. You know, it's more risky nowadays to do a new IP, but when they do get an IP that actually like catches fire, they run it into the ground, you know, they hang on to it. And then that just comes down to its own perpetual cycle of eventually that will get rebooted. Look at Spider-Man. You know, we've had 3 reboots of Spider-Man, you know, back in the 2000s, and then Tobey Maguire. And then in mid-2000s, I guess, you know, 2010, 2012 or something like that, around there, with Andrew Garfield. You know, we had another one, you know, and then not even like 3 years later, we had another one with what's the kid's name? Tom Holland in the Avengers. You know, that's 3 Spider-Mans in a little over a decade.
Well, like, I feel like, so all of these things that we would mention or even bring up as examples were all of, at one point, original things. So it's just like, I find it really weird and confusing that people just can't come up with just new stuff. And then the super interesting thing that I see, the people that do are like, they're amazing. You got your Childish Gambinos, your Jordan Peeles, you know, these guys that just go in and they just kind of make their own stuff. They may take some elements of the past and kind of mix it in, just because, I mean, there's no such thing as like, there's no original ideas. Your ideas always come from somewhere. But it's not like, I don't know. it's not like when you watch a Jordan Peele movie that it's just a remake of like Attack of the Birds, like that old, what is probably 60s or actually it's probably older, like 40s.
Yeah,
40s
Alfred Hitchcock, you're talking about like that type of stuff.
Yeah, like he's not just remaking that. He's like taking his own. Like I feel like when you remake something and you don't like put your own stuff into it and make your own thing, you aren't really creating anything with any kind of like
what value.
I wouldn't use the word value. I mean, it could still be valuable because people buy them, but I mean, you're not making anything with any soul. Mm-hmm. You didn't really put any love into this thing because you're just rehashing something. But if you make something that's like personal to you, I feel like people can feel that authenticity and they praise it. So I don't know.
Well, I think it comes down to like desperation.
Yeah.
You know, maybe not every company is behind this, but we have to remember that like these movies, they're basically coming from bigger companies that are all intertwined from each other. Right. You know, we may see a Spider-Man movie, but it's like that is owned by Fox as a whole. Mm-hmm. You know, and then now Disney.
Oh Disney God, man! Holy crap!
So actually, now speaking of Disney, okay, I think we can have two sides of the spectrum with this. Mm-hmm. It's either out of desperation, which I think Square would reflect the most.
Yeah.
You know, having basically the whole modern era of gaming, you know, last generation and this generation, of not really being on its top game. You know, no pun intended.
I feel like it's been like that since like 2012, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's been like it's getting close to the 10-year anniversary of just like gaming has just always just been in this weird, just kind of dumb spot.
And then on the other side of the spectrum, it's just how can we make more money? How can we, you know, get the most out of our consumer? Mm-hmm. That's where Disney comes in. No one really asked for Lion King, Aladdin, Dumbo, you know, Beauty and the Beast remakes.
Right.
But it's like, okay, we can reuse this material and deliver it in a new package that would be efficient for us because, like, okay, we don't have to write a script. You know, we have the basic screenplay and outline of everything. You know, art, direction, assets, and all that type of stuff. That's pretty much set in stone. You know, just get the actors and whatnot to fill the roles. You know, they justify it just enough to basically not repackaging the same old by saying like, well, that was live action, or this is live action, that was old animation. So it's like, it's a new spin, it's a new take. Now, how inspired it actually is at the end of the day, that depends on, I guess, how much work they actually want to invest. And from what we're seeing, are they really reinventing the wheel that much with their properties?
No.
I mean, I ain't blown away by the new Aladdin trailer personally.
Oh man, why did I? Ooh, they need to fire Will Smith's agent and just hire me and be like, next time I'll be like, yo, Will, just just don't. They're gonna paint you blue, dog. That's not it. The memes, the internet, just don't, man. They already got you for YouTube, bro. They already got you. Don't double meme in the same year.
Insert dad hot right now.
Man, jeez.
But it's like my whole thing, like, on the topic of Will Smith, the genie. What made the genie so amazing was that Robin Williams basically made the character. You know, it wasn't like put in front of him, this is how you gotta act, this is how you gotta emote, this is what we want you to do. He was pretty much ad-libbing. You know, he created the role, he created the character, and made it his own and made it unique. But then you get Will Smith.
I don't necessarily agree with that, just because like I don't really attach the person to the character, really. I'm not sure why I don't have a problem with Will Smith being the genie, but I think it's a bad career move for him because he's doing it at a very weird time in his career. Because it's like, if he would have done this like right after like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, I'd be like, okay, cool, that fits, because you know that was back when Will was like a funny guy. But Will Smith, like his career since then has been nothing but just serious AAA blockbuster films that are not funny like at all. Like they may be, you know, heartwarming or actiony or whatever, but now he's jumping back into this comedic role. But like for the past 15 years, for most people that don't know, they haven't seen Will Smith be a funny guy. They probably don't even know he's funny.
Well, not even just be funny, but when was the last time he was in an actual huge blockbuster movie? I mean, the peak of his career was in the 90s and early 2000s.
I wouldn't say that. Because I think he had because I know he came out with the Pursuit of Happiness, but that was like...
But that was over like a hiatus as well.
Let me see, hang on. Will Smith movies. Because he's been in a lot of movies.
He has.
So The Pursuit of Happiness was 2006. He came out in 7 Pounds. That was 2008. Hancock was 2008. He was in this Netflix film. Oh, yeah, okay, that Netflix movie, Bright or whatever.
Yeah, and that came out with like lukewarm reviews.
He was in Suicide Squad.
Yeah,
people didn't like that. I didn't watch it, but I heard people weren't too happy about it.
I mean, him and Harley Quinn were the best part of the movie, but when you're comparing yourself to the rest of the movie, it's like, okay, that wasn't very hard to do.
Men in Black 3, that was 2012. And then, no, I mean,
there was a time where you could
relevant.
say that, like, Will Smith, there was like a whole month, a whole holiday named after him. Independence Day. You know, that's where you were going like, okay, we're going to go see a Will Smith movie. You know, it's July. We got another one coming, you know? Bad Boys, Independence Day.
Yeah.
Wild West, Men in Black. Yeah, all those, he was shooting out hits like wildfire.
Right. But I don't think I don't think he's at a point in his career where it's like his career is going like down just because he's kind of just like, basically, if you want Will Smith in your movie, you're gonna have to pay a crap ton of money, like a lot of money. I know that for a fact, just because like he's just that kind of actor. Because he's a really good actor.
No, not knocking on his acting ability. I just feel like he's almost been like out of touch. Not so much. I don't know. It doesn't feel like he when you like in the talk of this discussion as far as like top actors right now, you really don't hear Will Smith's name getting thrown around.
Well, no, I mean he's not in anything that's like relevant, like super relevant, like today, and it's definitely not relevant to like kids, because Aladdin is like a kids thing because it's Disney, and
not just a kids thing. It's just a young adult thing. People who grew up with that in general, you know, it's crossing boundaries as far as generations. You know,
maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's just I guess I'd have to see like
because
how the movie does,
can't think that
kind of stuff.
Disney is not marketing to us because we grew up with this. Like, okay, they definitely have the money. You know, we definitely want them to go see it because it's nostalgia, the big N word.
Yeah.
All their heartstrings. You know, we want them to get their money. Yes, it's going to be marketed to kids as well, but it's like those kids are going to need to be taken by somebody, and those are going to be actually now. It could be people our age that are now parents. As you know, weird as that sounds, you know, taking a little 5-year-old to go see Aladdin because they went and saw it before. You know.
Well. So the Aladdin that we saw was a cartoon. I feel like they're going the wrong way as far as doing these as live actions, just because, and maybe I'm wrong, but I just feel like little kids are more interested in cartoons rather than like live action stuff. At least just from what I've seen in like recent years, most little kids don't really, they're just real people on the screen. That's really boring.
You think so?
I think so. Because I mean, if I would
think it'd be the opposite. Personally. Really? Yeah, because like we've seen a stark decline in animation. Period. You know, we've had the renaissance, the 90s and the 2000s of just like there's nothing but hot animation. You know, all the Nickelodeon channels, Nicktoons and Cartoon Network's cartoons and Disney's cartoons, but now it's slowly transitioning to just CG, you know, computer animation, Pixar, you know, those the last Disney traditional animated movie was Princess and the Frog, and that was like 2009. But before that they had Tangled. That was another CG movie. So I'm seeing like they're waning off of traditional animation, and now we're seeing more CG animation after like Pixar has popularized it and it's kind of taken hold.
Well, I mean, so this Aladdin movie, it's like has real people in it. Most of Disney's movies is just, when I say cartoon, I don't mean like CGI or whatever. I mean like they just look like cartoon characters. They don't, you know, they're not actual real actors. But yeah, I feel like kids are more interested in like the cartoon look rather than a real person on screen.
I think that's also a stigma of society thinking that cartoons are only for children, when we clearly know that's not the case. You know, I mean, I think our generation has proved that as well. I mean, look at anime being what it is. Yeah, cartoons are not just for kids; they're for teens, adults, whatever. Well, you know,
right? I just think Disney's just making a mistake just doing live action with this Aladdin thing, because all their stuff, that's the biggest stuff they've ever done, is all made up characters, not like Will Smith the actor and like whoever else these other actors are. I don't really know because I don't really follow actors like that, but like
no, yeah. I guess my main point is not to get too off track here is that, is it a mistake? Yeah, we probably don't want this to happen. We don't think it's necessary, but they're like, we can do it because we're Disney. You know, it's not going to hurt our pockets really, because it's not much of an investment. You know, it's a low risk, high return type deal for them. You know, something that can just like, okay, minimum effort, maximize profit, and they can do it with a whole catalog of movies and stuff that they can do it with. Not to say it's the right move, but for a financial one, they're like, yeah, let's go for it. I mean, there's a whole other conversation of saying like how bloated the whole market, the whole landscape for movies is right now.
Oh jeez.
I mean, you could say about what 70% of it is probably Disney.
I don't know. Let me see. Let's see. Movie market share.
At least for this year, because I mean, we got.
Yeah, we'll do 2019. Just curious.
We have Captain Marvel that came out earlier this year in March. We had Avengers. We have Dumbo. We have Aladdin. We have The Lion King. We have Toy Story. We have Maleficent, a sequel to one of their live action movies. And that's like going up until the end of summer. And I just rounded off, was that 7 movies?
So wait a minute. I'm not familiar with this at all.
Huh?
So who's Disney's distributor as far as movies? Is it Universal? Is it Buena Vista?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, Buena Vista is number one by like a large. They have 34.2% of the entire market.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers is like 15.8%, Universal is like 14.2%, and then like the next like 4 are all like 5, 4, 3, and the rest of them are all like 0 point something market share. So
yeah,
they pretty much own the movie theater at this point.
Mm-hmm. And like that's not really healthy, because it's, I mean, even if they're putting out, you know, good content, you know, for the general masses and public,
Mm-hmm.
you know, as far as good, I mean, like people enjoy it. Critically, they're fine. They're financially successful.
Right.
Okay, but it does narrow the landscape as far as what other people can do as far as competition.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it kind of like suffocates it.
Well, I feel like these companies need to like not worry so much about like trying to, because it's this weird thing in business that I've been noticing, and I think it's just all across the whole just business landscape. It's like these companies that are already massive, right? They want to be the biggest in the world out of everybody. And so what they do is that they like say, oh, well, I'm Apple, and because I'm Apple, I'm gonna make cars now, and I'm gonna compete with Toyota. And it's like, you're stupid. Just do what you do. Like nobody's asking you to do this, so just do what you do. So like, I feel like if people wouldn't be so caught up in the numbers and just stay in your own lane, and then just make what you already know how to make, I think your company will be fine. Because it's not like Warner Brothers is gonna go under because it only has 15% market share, right? Like Warner Brothers is fine.
As long as they make sure they you know, operate within their means.
Yeah, that's it. That's
Yeah.
all it takes. So it's just like, because they get all like super money hungry and power hungry, you'll start seeing Disney like grab up all this stuff that Disney has no relation to, like Star Wars, and then they start messing with it and saying, oh, we're Disney, we can put it out. And then now people that are diehard fans of Star Wars are like, oh no, this is some crap, now I'm out. Which is just like, they had no business in that realm. They should have just left it alone, keep making what they already make, and then they'd have been fine. They'd have still been making money. But now it's just kind of like they're ruining series with these remakes, kind of, sort of. At least in the example of Star Wars. Yeah.
I guess my only thing with that, because like, I guess, where do we see the potential as far as like someone like Disney coming in? It doesn't have to be Disney, but like, what if like someone who had more money than Lucasfilms had more money to give them? She's like, okay, look, we can help, you know, fund your endeavors, and it's like, and you get to make your movies on a bigger scale. You know, say that you were limited in your vision with your current you know, operation costs, and now it's like, okay, we can help you fund that, and it's like, now you can even go even bigger with your ambitions, to go even further with your ideas.
Right.
But of course, how do we make sure the integrity is intact?
Well, I think,
you know,
they need to like, it's a similar thing I think we see in I love it whenever I see it, because it happens in gaming sometimes, where you will get, okay, so you'll get the guys from Nintendo, right? And then you'll get the guys from Dynasty Warriors, and then you say, okay, we want to make a game and we're going to call it Hyrule Warriors, right? And it's going to have Zelda characters in it. It's like, okay, Nintendo's like, that's not really our thing, but you guys can help us with that. And whenever I played Hyrule Warriors, I was like, yo, this feels good. At first I was like, this is going to be some crap, but then I played it, I was like, yo, this is fire. So I feel like if Disney would have just been like, you know what, Star Wars and these kind of films aren't really our thing, but we can team up with Lucasfilms, who does all the Star Wars movies, and just have, you know, some of that original kind of thought process and like mentorship a little bit. They could have made a great film and just brought the Star Wars series back to life.
True. And I feel like Star Wars is a little bit way more complicated as far as just it being a remake and being uninspired.
Yeah, definitely.
That's why it failed.
I'm super simplifying like all of the details, but in a perfect world, we would hope that's how it would go, right? But...
Right? 'Cause as far as like how they, not to dive too much into the Star Wars side of things, like there's so many things as far as just like just straight up vision. You know, what was the vision? Where was the structure? What was the plan? What was the outline?
Yeah.
To make these movies. And obviously there was none. Or if there was one, guess what? The middleman in the transition to the sequel just said, screw it, I don't care.
Yeah.
So it's like not having that structure or, you know, accountability. Yeah, sometimes you just have loose cannons.
Oh man.
You know? And it's not like anyone could have predicted that. You know, if this felt like a sure thing, you got J.J. Abrams leading the helm. It's like this is the structure that we have. We have Disney who can supply anything that we're going to be doing. So our vision is almost limitless. Mm-hmm. Let's just create a good movie, because we can't think that the people in the middle, the directors, producers, it's not like they wanted to just create a bad movie. You know,
they never do. Yeah, most times.
You know, and it sucks that when one person, whoever they may be, gets in the way and fumbles it for people. It's just when it's a fumble with Star Wars, it's a monumental game-ending fumble.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So it really sucks, and you really don't get do-overs in Hollywood until 5 years later.
Everybody forgets.
Because our attention spans are so small, or at least the mass public's attention span is so small.
Well, okay. Interesting thing about that. Is it the fact that our attention spans are getting smaller, or is it that the amount of content that's being pushed into our minds at one time is just getting so big? You see where I'm going with that kind of stuff?
No, yeah, you can say like it's almost one the same, because our attention span is our attention span is not infinite. It's finite.
Right.
So, this is our limit as far as what we can comprehend and process. But now we've reached a threshold where there's just way more content to where we just can't keep all that in there, as far as retention. We have, I guess, our limit as far as what we can, process.
Right.
But there's just so many more things to just wean it out even faster than normal.
Right.
I think that's where it is, kind of like in the middle ground there.
Mm-hmm. Well, like technically speaking, like, can you even, like, I was thinking about this the other day when I woke up. I was like, can I walk around in my house without seeing an advertisement? Even with my door closed, right? Mm-hmm. My door is closed. If I open up my refrigerator, if I look on top of my fridge, if I look in the cabinet, even in the, what I'm saying? It's just like I'm constantly being bombarded with all this
brands
like,
and everything.
Yeah, brands and just mental propaganda. And then don't even get me started on like the internet and like articles and all that stuff. It's just like, I feel like
it's sensory overload.
Yeah.
And I just had this literally happened last week. So we came back from our New York trip last week.
Okay.
Me and the family. And we're like, okay, let's eat out, or at least have stuff delivered. So we did Olive Garden. It's just, we just felt like our Olive Garden.
Right.
Or maybe we just felt like Olive Garden. I don't know. You'll see the connection when I tell you the rest.
Okay.
And so I get my food. I sit down, and I put on some Hulu, watching some Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Okay.
And I shit you not. Mm-hmm. The first commercial was Olive Garden, and not just any Olive Garden commercial. Olive Garden takeout commercial.
Yo.
And I'm like, I haven't seen an Olive Garden commercial in literally years. I haven't been to an Olive Garden in years, and that's the weird thing. It's been a hot minute since I've been to an Olive Garden, but for some reason, my parents felt like Olive Garden.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows what they were seeing? Who knows what they've been in contact with? It was like, all right, sure, I'm fine with that, you know? And then not even minutes later on my phone, I see on the YouTube timeline, on the mobile version at the top, Olive Garden takeout.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait. That pause, rewind. Where did this begin? Where does this red line trail start and where does it end? That makes no sense. Siri's listening, and she knows it. They know it. Google. This is a whole other thing, but you know what the overall concept, the idea I'm getting with here is like,
yeah, it's the whole thing of like, you just,
there's no stop button.
Yeah, there's no privacy or anything. It's like, even if you, let's say for instance somebody goes on your computer, right, and they play a joke on you and go on your Amazon account and they, I don't know, they search up like a vibrator or something like that, right? So man, we should have made this a discussion topic because I actually know like a lot of the details, like behind the scenes, like how some of that stuff works. But anyways,
what'll happen, we can delve into this later, you know,
yeah,
because we still have other stuff we gotta get to as well. You know, we went through, you know, reboots to remakes to overall just branding in general, and yeah, it's been quite the rabbit hole. Let me just say.
Yeah. All right, I got a sick segue. You ready, bro?
All
right, here it is. So, since we're talking about how, you know, companies are stalking us and bombarding us with advertisements, let's talk about how the news media is bombarding us with politics. Bam, it's your boy, man, doing them sick segues, man.
10 out of 10.
Yeah.
No redos. Nope. One take, Jake, right here.
Yeah. So I guess I'll read out like the official thing we were going to discuss or whatever.
Go for it.
But so it was about Ubisoft and politics and game journalism. So I watched the video sent me from the guy. You know what's weird? I don't like that guy's videos, but his information is okay. It's pretty good, actually.
Well, not to get too carried away, but it's like it's the struggle that we always have. It's like we want to make interesting editing art content with our videos.
Yeah,
that's
he
what
just
we
kind of
strive
put
to do.
gameplay in the background. And I was like, man, this is really lazy. But your research is spot on, so I can't be too mad.
It's efficient. Yeah, you know. So.
But anyways, I'll go ahead and get to it.
Yeah.
So apparently, and just correct me if I'm wrong or anything like that, the Ubisoft is making the new Ghost Recon game, and they were being attacked over it. Actually, they were previously being attacked for the Division 2, because although the Division 2 was set in America, in a kind of a post-apocalyptic kind of America, kind of sort of, there was no touching of anything political. And, you know, you have to rescue, like, the president in the Division 2, and it has nothing to do with Donald Trump, and they're not trying to, you know, make America great again or nothing. Like, Ubisoft was like, we don't want nothing to do with that.
It was pretty smart on how they handled it. You know, pretty clever,
it's really
you know,
smart.
How they handled it. Because, like, you would think, like, how would you be able to create a game around those issues, or not even issues, but around that theme?
Yeah.
You know, without talking about America. But, hey, they found a way to do it, and more power to them. But,
and then it's also, so basically Ubisoft is kind of under fire now, it seems, with, I guess.
Are they really?
Well, they're under fire by a loud minority.
And who makes up the minority?
Oh man, I would say gaming, like. It seems like it's just gaming journalism. I'm not sure exactly which companies exactly it was that was attacking him. I just don't remember. But basically, it's the gaming journalist version of BuzzFeed. So it's like that kind of people where they're like, they push issues and it's issues that people don't even really care about. Like the majority don't even care at all.
which can you even call them a minority? That's the weird thing. Like, these game journalists who are supposed to be the voice of the people aren't the voice of the people. And
not at all.
Don't even make up. I'm not even sure if they even make up a percentage. Like, we're talking like 0.011%. Like, they're so small compared to the vast, larger ecosystem of the gamer community, you know? And they're trying to be the voice of millions of people.
Yep.
Creating issues that, like what we say, aren't there. And it's really smart for Ubisoft to not even take a position. They're just saying, like, this, they're just creating a game that they want to take, that they want to create.
Right.
And in the process of creating that, they know, like, hey, we don't want to touch these subjects, and that's fine with us, you know, so why can't you be okay with it? And the fact that they're being smart to say that we don't want to even touch the issue in general, then it's like, okay, well, where's our material? You know, the people behind the desks, behind the computer. You know, it's like, well, okay, we have a company who's being super safe, and they're a big company. Ubisoft is a huge company, you know. I mean, you could definitely say they're definitely in the top, you know, third-party developers right now.
Ubisoft has been around for a long time, so yeah, they're pretty up there. Assassin's Creed's pretty much, you know, it's floating that balloon.
But I guess my main point is, like, now they're like, okay, I don't know what editor did this, but they're like, okay, you know, we'll do a 180 on them. Instead of letting them do the F up, we'll create the F up.
Yeah.
You know, we'll create the issue. You know, like, okay, well, you don't want to talk about politics? Well, we're going to make you talk about politics.
Yeah.
You know? And, what? This is interesting because it's not just gaming, but also, I'm not sure if you heard about this, but ESPN.
Okay.
ESPN recently, past couple of days, came out and said they did it all, you know, Disney and official and stuff like that. You know, a lot of business talk. But it's basically like, okay, so through our research, we see that politics in our content is not advisable. It's not, you know, it's not wise to do.
Okay.
Our audience does not like that. But it's like that no shit Sherlock moment. Like, do you really think that it was that hard to come to that analysis? Basically, it was the analysis of they were losing money because people are not tuning in to football games with the whole, you know, like, for example, like Colin Kaepernick and stuff like that, you know, his whole political stand and stuff like that, and, you know, Trump against the NFL players and stuff. People just don't want to see that, you know?
Well, so, okay. Interesting thing about that. This is all right. So, oh man, this is a hot take, man. I'm about to make a lot of sports fans really mad, but if they do their homework and they look it up, they may not be that mad at me when I say this. Okay, so football, basketball, baseball, a little bit of soccer, but not so much. Soccer doesn't really deal with this that much because it's more international.
Yeah. But
the NBA and the NFL are both in a state, more so the NBA, they're both in a state of, like, the lowest they've ever been kind of financially and viewership-wise. And it's not only just the political things that are going on, but our generation is more interested into the esports type deal, to where esports is actually causing a massive split in viewership and market share by, like, a large, like I didn't know until I looked it up, but there are some League of Legends games that are bigger than the NBA finals. If I were to tell, like, my dad that, he wouldn't even believe me. He'd be like, "You're a liar. There's no way a bunch of nerds are watching League of Legends, this dumb computer game, more so than the NBA finals." But they're like, if you ever look it up, you know, get you some free time or whatever, that stuff happens, like, all the time. And
I mean, not to take away from it, because I wouldn't say that, like, it's not huge, but, like,
right.
Because I was gonna say, is it esports or is it just like digital media in general?
Well, I think I say esports because like
it's a direct comparison.
It's direct comparison, and then it's also you're basically,
yeah.
If I were to call it something, you're watching competitive television.
Yeah, so you're watching someone or compete. People perform or compete.
Right, and I mean, I'm sure you remember those articles about how they were going to have esports like in the Olympics and stuff like that.
Apparently, it's not. Is 2020 the next Olympics?
Yes, sir. I believe so.
So yeah, Japan, they're supposed to have esports in that one.
Yeah. So it's just like
that's next year.
Yeah.
Damn.
So
I felt so far away.
So not only are they dealing with the whole political thing, they're also like trying to combat how people aren't really into like basketball and football and sports as much as they were, just because there's a barrier for entry, kind of, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
you gotta be able to play. You gotta have talent.
Yeah, if you can't play, it's kind of hard to even relate. But my grandma could play League of Legends.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just
barrier
like
super low.
Oh, you just gotta just download it. It's free. You play it, and it's like if you play it for like a month, you'll kind of know what's going on. And then when you watch people do it at the professional level, like you're like even I'm not really a too big League of Legends fan, but if it's on Twitch or whatever,
yeah,
those stadiums are packed. Like it's like a stadium, like you would at like a football stadium, kind of packed. So
that'd be interesting to look up. Like, how big are their esports stadiums and stuff?
They're massive, 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 massive.
The thing with, I guess, our generation that we're dealing with, like us millennials, and then Gen Z coming up. Because like we're so tied to just our electronics, to where it's like everything is just accessible by our fingertips, And before, like, say if you want to do a pickup basketball game, well, first you got to get a group of friends.
Yeah.
Once you get those group of friends, say like 4 people, then you got to go drive out. It's like, oh, well, we can't drive. We'll go, let's take our bikes. Okay, some people can do that, right, to go to the park, but not a lot of suburban areas. Man, that's going to be a minute to get there. It's not going to be that easy. And then the parents even let you to go out there.
Oh, God, that's a whole, yeah.
So
man.
But basketball is like one of the more easier sports to get into.
Oh yeah, you could play it like just you don't need pads and all the equipment.
Yeah.
You just need the ball and a hoop, and you're pretty good.
But even that's even hard. But we'll do football. Well, okay, we don't have a football field readily for everybody, but I guess you can do a little pickup at at your backyard or whatever. But I mean, even that's limited. And then baseball, if you want to say like the big 3 of sports, basketball, football, baseball, okay, well, you need a whole baseball diamond to do that, and you got to drive out to another park. Yeah. There's all these different barriers, and so like it's, I guess, almost natural. Just how we've
quick thing. He meant the big 3 in America. For anybody that's from like
True.
Oh, dude, man, they get so mad, dude.
That is so true. I'm sorry. Football. I mean soccer and
yeah. There we go. Yo, we get politically correct out here, man. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. For all our international friends that are out there. I'm sorry. We're America. We're a bunch of narcissists.
USA.
You know what? Yeah, because baseball's America's pastime.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But hey, I mean, look at Japan. Hideki Matsui. I mean, Godzilla. He's huge over in Japan.
Oh, yeah.
He's retired, but but yeah, sorry about that.
Nah, you're good, man. You're good.
But yeah, so like, all in all, yeah, it's just we're our hobbies are dictated by our environment to an extent.
Yeah.
And our environment is a lot of technology, you know.
Well, I feel like I'm gonna try to like go back to the what we were going on before or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of companies are specifically gaming companies. Yeah, well, actually, them even more. They seem to be the most afraid, more so than anybody else, kind of, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
When they see these articles that are posted and they see, you know, how many clicks and how many views these articles get because they're at number one whenever you Google something about their game, I think what it does is it kind of... This is gonna be really weird. This is like a half hot take, I guess.
Can we do those?
Yeah, we can half
this.
Yeah, this will be the first one we've done. Usually we just do hot takes. But I feel like when they put those articles out, they are kind of brainwashing people into thinking that. So I'll give you an example. I was on Facebook, right? Just kind of scrolling randomly. And I see a meme of Game of Thrones. Now, mind you, I've never seen a single episode of Game of Thrones. Don't plan to. Not really interested. Not my thing. Whatever. Yeah. But I saw a meme. It was like something to the effect of like the first picture. It was like, oh yeah, Game of Thrones seasons 1 through whatever, and it's everybody's all thumbs up, smiling. And then like the next picture is like Game of Thrones final season. It's just a dragon burning everybody, and everybody's all on fire.
I think I like that meme. I think I know what meme you're talking about.
Right. And so I saw that. I had a conversation with somebody at work, and I was like, yeah, I heard that this last season of Game of Thrones really sucked. And they go, oh yeah, it was horrible because this and that. Da, 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 da. Now, mind you, I've never even watched it, but I believe that because of something I just saw very briefly online. So these articles that these, you know, people put out, like, oh, Ubisoft isn't political enough. People may see that really quick and be like, oh man, you know what? They're right. Man, yo, Ubisoft, why you not down with the red, man? Why you not Republican or Democrat or whatever, or LGBT, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just like they are kind of forcing people's minds to go in that direction and even side with them for like a brief moment. Kind of, sort of, yeah. It's really interesting.
Well, I would like to think that not everyone is so, I guess, gullible to just believe whatever they read, but people who are within the fandom, yeah, they know what up, they're educated.
Right.
But not everyone that deep, I guess, into whatever particular thing that they like, you know? And so, yeah, because like we can't inform ourselves upon everything. Right. So where we give some level of trust to these companies, you know, to inform us to an extent.
Right.
And then we can do the due diligence if we're really that invested to get the broader picture of the whole situation. You know, and so like in passing, yeah, people can like, huh, that's interesting. So I guess, yeah, people don't like that. Or I guess that game is pretty good because people say it is, you know. Or like, you know, Anthem, yeah, from what I've been hearing, Anthem's not that good. I mean, it's not my game, but that's what I'm hearing, you know, mumbling around the community and stuff.
Right.
And then they just go away and they just, you know, go about their business. So it's tough because I guess it's up to us in the community to keep them in check. You know, I guess that's the only way that I can think of combating it is us to call them out on their BS. You know, your Kotakus, your, you know, Mashable game, you know, whatever
the
game.
Verge, all those.
Verge, yeah. You know, whatever your cup of tea to, you know, of gaming outlet or journalism, you want to call it. Yeah, it's up to us to just, you know, go out there. It's like, no, that's not how it is. But like, how do we inform everyone else? It's hard. Yeah. It's a losing battle. You know, there's way more of them than there are of you, you know, so to speak, you know, as far as informing people.
Well, it's funny because like even if you do address it and address how they're wrong or, you know, misinformed or whatever, it still isn't like you're still fueling the fire in a way.
Yeah, because then you're just trying to...
Because they're still getting clicks and views and people are still looking. So it's like...
Oh, I wasn't even going to say that aspect. I was thinking that you were basically just doing the same thing as the journalists are doing.
Yeah, to an extent. And then it's like, even I guess the viewer would say like, oh, you know, can I trust this person, that this one single person, their opinion over a journalism company's opinion that may have had some like a lot more truth mixed in with some lies, some political lies or whatever. It's like whose portfolio is more trustworthy at that point.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
Because when I was thinking about this idea, I can't remember where I saw it, but people were like talking about like, you know, we're seeing more sites like the Wall Street Journal or even like Forbes, you know, talking about, you know, gaming topics, but they're not even being the more, you know, saucy hot takes that are, conflicting amongst the community. They're just talking about, hey, reviews, sales, your average stuff.
Yeah.
But they're dipping their toes into all of it, and like these are like outlets that haven't been, I guess, maybe, I don't want to say corrupted, but are like lost their way or whatever. Because I mean, you could just say that each of those sites, like your Kotakus and stuff, had some level of integrity that everyone did respect, your IGNs and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But along the way, since everything's getting so bloated, it's like, how do you shift through all the sea of content? It's like, okay, what do I pay attention to?
Right.
And then and it's almost like, okay, I'm just not gonna look at anything, because it's just like, I can't trust anybody. But then you have the more unlikely sources. It's like, I didn't know Forbes did gaming stuff. I mean, I never messed with Forbes before, but it's like, it's almost Forbes' way of engaging with the current demographic, because like you would say that Wall Street Journal, Forbes are more older sites.
Well, I feel like they're and this is just me, just like, if I had to guess, well, I don't know if I'm even basically, I feel like Wall Street Journal and Forbes' audience is more, generally speaking, probably people that are about 40 plus.
Yeah.
That are, if not retired, they're on their way to retirement. And as far as financial stability, they are very, very stable. And, their lives are kind of set at this point. And some of them may be even on the upper echelon of life, where they just make, just obscene amounts of money. And because what I noticed what Forbes and Wall Street Journal does is that they, as far as gaming is concerned, they only present facts, numbers, and statistics. And which, they're doing a good job of those things, keeping it accurate. But I think it's a good and a bad thing, because I feel like they are kind of showing, hey, gaming makes money, so why don't you make a game? And it's this old dude with too much money that he knows what to do with. It's like, oh, well, I could take my whole 401k and just make a game like Fortnite, and the kids will eat it up, and I'll make more money to send all my grandkids to Harvard. Oh, let's do that. And it's just like,
you think this is where the investors are coming in?
I honestly really think so, because I know a lot of investors read Wall Street Journal, Forbes, just because that's all they talk about is just people with money. So
yeah, that's their demographic.
That's pretty much it. So I'd imagine they're getting a lot of people like that in there, which, don't get me wrong, I think that is a good avenue for people that are like trying to make up and coming games that are like actually going to be good. But then there's the ones that are, people are like, oh, well, how much money can I make out of this?
Yeah.
They're not really in it for, I guess, the art form.
Yeah, their motives are a little bit not short-sighted, but just different.
Yeah,
you know, their own intentions.
Yeah,
and it's tough because it's kind of also relates to like the Disney thing that we were talking about before. Like, they have money and we want the industry to grow, but it's like, how do we grow but keep our integrity? Yeah, that's like the never-ending question for anything you want to, you know, if it's with any sort of artistic art form to it. You know, it's like keeping the integrity, keeping gaming genuine. Yeah, you know. It's an uphill battle and it's never easy. And because like I don't want to say the N word, but nostalgia, it almost makes you feel like, why can't we go back to the days of like, you know, the late 90s, early 2000s, where people were making games because like you felt like they were genuinely passionate behind it. Not to say there's no passion nowadays, but it's less influence by other things.
I feel like okay, this is really interesting, but there's a if you ever get a chance, there's a show on, I think it was Netflix that I saw this. It's called it may be I think it's Netflix, but it's called like the 90s and then the 2000s and then the 80s or whatever. And basically it's like a 8 or 10 episode series where they break down like all the pivotal moments in just pop culture and just life of people in the 90s. Yeah. And one thing that I noticed in comparison between the 90s and 2000s and then today, the 90s was probably one of the biggest jumps as far as like advancement in technology, like probably in the history of mankind. Yeah, like the 90s to 2000s. And if you notice, because there was no PlayStation in the 80s, right? There was nothing that amazing. Like DVDs got like invented during this time period, you know what I mean? Like PS2 and all those days. But if you were to go to today, we haven't really made a major jump, so we're kind of just getting more of the same.
Our bigger jumps are more in like how much we can do with the technologies, like memory, you know? Yeah. So like flash drives, hard drives, stuff like that. That's where we're seeing a lot of the advancements, but they're like, it's more back-ended stuff. Yeah. You know? That like, but yeah, like basically reinventing how people consume media. That happened between the transition between the 90s and 2000s, you know? Right.
And today we haven't really, we have not gotten any Steve Jobs or any of these people who just create these. Actually, no, that's not true. Only person I could think of that might be doing that, but I think his plans to get it done is a little far off. It's probably just Elon Musk.
Let us say, yeah.
Yeah.
But, and he's not even in like the same, you know, I said what ecosystem is what we are, you know, that he's doing his own thing, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess he memes like he is kind of. I mean, I'm sure he watches like anime and like he plays video games, stuff like that. But I think
apparently his top animes are Full Metal Alchemist and Cardcaptor Sakura.
He changed his profile pic to I think it's Ed or whatever. Yeah.
He changed his profile pic to Ed, and then he's been dishing out a bunch of Cardcaptor Sakura memes. Yep. So which is hilarious.
He's in touch with all that kind of stuff. So I'd imagine he would.
I wonder how old he is.
He's like, if I had to, I think he's like in his like
40s.
Yeah, like 40s, almost 50. So he's not like a young guy. He's just kind of just been, you know, he's been woke to all the gaming and just anime and stuff since day one. He's a real one.
47.
Yeah.
Your typical white dad.
Yeah. Yeah, as far as age. As far as his interest, I wouldn't say typical. I was really surprised.
His interest, anything but typical. Yeah. But like the persona, you would think like, oh yeah, he's just, you know, the average dude. But no, yeah, he is cultured. You know, what makes him so cool? He just seems like a fun dude.
Oh yeah, really really funny guy. Very much so a bit of a maverick of our time. Like you would think he'd be, suit and tie, super robotic, on some Mark Zuckerberg type stuff.
Oh my goodness.
But if you see him like I've seen like a bunch of his interviews. He's wears like very relaxed clothing. He's got like on like a leather jacket.
You graphic tees and stuff.
Yeah, he's chilling, and everybody else is all, Mr. Musk, this and that, and he's like, yeah, this and that, and he'll smoke like some weed. Yeah, I think this and that. He's very just overly relaxed.
Yeah.
Cool guy though. But I feel like, just the whole. Maybe this is the problem with the remakes and just kind of just everything as a whole. It's just we haven't advanced that much from the days of 2000 to 2010. So like we haven't really made any huge jumps as far as technology and other things are concerned. We kind of just been doing more efficient ways of doing the same thing, kind of, sort of.
Yeah. But then like there are people out there, maybe they're not doing it in the means that we would be way more. Maybe they're not doing it within the taste set that we like. So like, what about people like what's the guy's name? Scott Coffin in Five Nights at Freddy's, or like the guy with Minecraft. Or even the guy who did Undertale, Toby Fox, is that his name? I think. These are people who are creating games, for their own passions and innovations, and they're genuinely creating something new. Now
those guys, I would say, are like the Steve Jobs of like gaming.
Yeah, but they're on a smaller scale.
Right, yeah. Steve Jobs and all that kind of stuff, they do things that kind of affect the entire world. But these, like you said, the Minecraft guy, the Undertale guy, Five Nights at Freddy's, they change the whole world of gaming with those things.
And for good or for bad, but we can't deny that the introduction of those games has introduced a whole lot more people into gaming.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
But is that a good thing or a bad thing? Who are we to say if that's good or bad? Because it definitely widens the pot.
Yeah.
And like, are they not gamers?
Yeah, that's another. It's weird. Like, I hate it, but in the same breath, I think it's really cool how like a bunch of like little kids can go play Fortnite and do the little Fortnite dance.
Yeah.
And they're just having fun. They're just having fun just being goofy little kids. And I'm like, you know what? Back in my day,
that was our Tekken, or that was our SSS Tricky.
Well, or, and then also like,
or a Halo.
I would have gotten made fun of for doing that. They'd be like, oh, you're a freaking nerd. But today, everybody's doing it. And I'm like, you know what? That's good that they didn't have to go through that.
True. But it's way more, it's just mainstream.
Yeah.
For better or worse.
Yeah.
And like, did I tell you about the kid when I went on our spring trip with my family? About the kid I met in the elevator?
I think he had like a Pokemon shirt or something like that.
No, he had a ninja shirt.
Oh, yeah. I remember you telling me. Yeah.
And I had a whole little, well, he mostly was controlling the conversation because, like, I don't know, he was just happy to have someone's attention and just talk about his passions, you know? Because, like, I can't, oh, yeah, I had a Jamaica jersey on.
Okay.
I had a Jamaica jersey on, Jamaican football jersey for our international friends.
Yeah,
all right?
Yeah. USA.
And he was like, oh, that's such a cool shirt. I love it. I wish I was able to get one, but my mom wouldn't let me. It's like, oh, that's okay, man, but I like your ninja jersey. He's like, oh, yeah, thanks. I like it too. It's like, he just goes off and like how he watches Twitch and how he likes Ninja and Fortnite and all the dances and all that stuff. And like, it's like 2 generations coming together. Cause like this kid was like, I don't know, like maybe 11.
Right.
And it's like, who am I to take that away from him? he's a gamer, and his idols, or people, his mentors, in pop culture is like Ninja, and stuff like that, where we had, Goku,
Yeah, people that weren't even real.
Ours more.
They were real to
fantasy
us, though.
Character.
Yeah.
But so like I feel like that's interesting. That it's not that I guess the old traditions are changing, or at least for that generation it's different for them.
Ooh, hot take. Ooh. Okay.
Huh?
All right. This is that hot pocket you pull out the microwave. You're ready to eat it. You take that bite, and your whole mouth is just a smoldering blaze. All right. This is a hot take right here.
All
right. So, if Goku was real to us, right? But we know he's fake, and Ninja is real to like, how real is that real life person to that kid?
Yeah.
And how real are they in reality? Because I see parallels in the fact that, like, when these YouTubers and I'll bring up the example, Pro Jared, for example, and all of his
all
that whole thing, right? So Pro
Jared,
I
what you want, kids.
Yeah, but
say no.
Pro Jared, and even what's his name? What's the other guy who's in Beauty that recently got?
Oh my goodness, James Charles.
James Charles. Okay, so these are people that are huge, and they have people that are look up to them as idols. But then you see this other side to them, and you realize that all of that was a facade. So it's like, are the cartoon characters that we looked up to more real than these people? Because we know Goku.
Yeah.
But do we don't really know, like, Pro Jared, and like, so is it better to look up to a cartoon character, or is it better to look up to an actual person as like a little kid?
I mean, it comes back to integrity.
Yeah.
You can say that, like, there's more value, or at least theoretically there's more value in the real personality.
Right, yeah.
Because it's something way more tangible.
Yeah.
They can, be way more personal and transparent with kids, and like, or just their audience in general, to be an inspiration and a role model. That's the word I was looking for. Role model. They would say, like, oh yeah, that's a decent role model to have. But yeah, when you peel back the curtain, how real are those role models? Are they just creating characters themselves?
Right.
From what we've seen, these YouTubers that are wilding
straight here, man, this is to a level I've never seen in my life. This is insane. It like
happened all at once. I mean, I feel like Etika was just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
And like everything just like came down. Well, it maybe even started with like MCNs, taking away MCNs and all.
Dude,
what was it? Defy Media, crashing down everything, and then like everything starts unraveling. People leaving their NCMs, and then people going out on their own, and then it's just like, oh my gosh, you got the King Nappy and that whole PokeTuber crap going on.
Yep.
And Pro Jared, like we said. I feel like we're missing one, because like there's so many. James Charles. And like and with Tati, and like, just when you thought that James Charles was like the bad guy, it seems like now she's the bad guy. Well,
so like, it's funny because that's what's going on with the Pro Jared thing now.
Wait, what?
Bro, okay.
How could you spin that to me?
All right, so check this out. Right? So
we got receipts on this guy.
So the lady that he was involved with, his wife, Haley. I think it's Haley.
Yeah.
So
we're sorry if we get the information wrong. Look, this is just off the cuff, man.
Yeah, it's off the cuff. If I get the name wrong, like, I think people can fill in the blanks and kind of know who I'm talking about. Quick Google search, man, they'll get it.
But don't get your panties in a bunch. That's all we're saying.
Yeah. But so basically, she blasted him on Twitter and her social medias or whatever, right? And now she's playing this victim card, as in, like, she's talking about how oh, I'm a survivor and this and that and yada yada yada, like he was like assaulting her or something like that, but he didn't, and she never said that, but that's kind of how she was acting.
Well, not that he was assaulting her, but like he was like making advances on straight people and that weren't actually gay.
Oh, you're talking about James? Oh no, I mean the Pro Jared thing.
Oh, I'm getting the two stories confused. Okay. Pro Jared's girlfriend. Okay, right, or wife.
So
okay.
ex-wife now, but
okay.
So she's spinning it and saying, oh well, she's a survivor and he's been doing this and that to her and making her feel bad, right?
Okay.
But there's another side that because she's giving a lot. Cause she what she did is that she screwed up. She gave away some details that screw up her claims because they were in a polyamorous relationship.
You mean an open one?
Basically an open relationship. And apparently she knew that Jared and this other lady liked each other. She knew it. She already knew.
Yeah.
She knew
that other lady was also married.
They were all best friends.
Yeah.
So they knew that they were all like, doing it with each other or whatever, right? And she said that she knew that. And then the other part of it is that she knew about his secret little kitty blog or whatever.
I did hear about that.
Yeah, so it's just like people are she'll talk about how she's a survivor and blah blah blah, but then somebody will reply and be like, well wait, you knew about him doing this and doing that, so you're just as bad as him and da-da-da-da-da. So now it's like it's getting flipped back on to her now at this point.
But it's like, is she really as bad as him? I mean, come on, he's not committing the crimes.
Well, technically speaking,
I mean, she's committing a crime by not revealing it, reporting it.
She's in the eyes of the law, I believe she would be an accomplice.
Yeah, an accomplice accessory, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, all it would take is for The Verge to say, oh, Pro Jared and his wife both diddle little kids, and be like, oh, dang, Haley, we didn't know you was like that. And it's like she can't defend herself because she's in jail, so it's just like, oh crap, Haley and him.
Are they actually going to go to jail?
I don't think so. I don't see anything about any type of legal battle.
All these people going crazy and acting nuts, getting outed as pedophiles.
Yep.
And none of them are actually getting, due process, justice to any of them. No one's getting prosecuted.
Yeah.
As far as we know. Why is that? Like, we just gonna go out here to destroy people's clout and that's it? Okay, damage done. They've served their sentence. They've been dusted, and now everything's fine.
Well,
why aren't things getting taken further?
I feel like here's an interesting thing, right? I feel like the way that it's being done today is worse than going to jail. Because
is it?
In some ways, yes. The reason why I say that,
they're still roaming free to fulfill any pleasures they may have doing what they were doing before.
Well, see, that's the problem. Because when you go to jail, right, you're just in jail. Like you're there, you're in a box. Nobody gonna mess with you except for people that are already in jail. Yeah. If they even know about you, right?
To be quote unquote reformed.
Right. Now, if you're out on the streets and everybody in the whole social media space and just the living, breathing world knows about what's going on with you, how can you apply for a job?
But do they really know?
I mean, when jobs do background checks, they Google everybody. Yeah. So if they Google, Haley's name or Jared's name or whatever, and Jared, I mean, if I had to guess, what would he do for money? He'd have to just do what he's always been doing. But what internet-based company is going to want to deal with him?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what. So you go outside of internet tradition. You go outside your wheelhouse.
What could he do?
Who's to say that he can't go for, generic publication? Go into just like a news journalism thing.
They wouldn't allow that at all. He would have to remove himself completely from the internet. Mm-hmm. And then if he does that, and if I had to guess, I don't know if he has like any type of other skills as far as like not internet based. He'd have to like, I don't know, like do construction or like wait tables or it would drastically change his life into something that he's never done before in his life that he may not even be good at. So it's like he's a prisoner of the world forever instead of like a prisoner in jail. Because if you're in jail and you like serve your time and you come out, I've noticed that like people, as long as they don't go back in and do stupid stuff, they have a pretty smooth ride whenever they come out, kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
As far as like celebrities and stuff goes.
I guess it's the idea of them just roaming free to inflict any harm on anyone else. It's just this doesn't sit well with me.
Right.
You know, because I mean, it doesn't. It almost makes us accomplices as well. Because it's like, well, we knew about this guy and no one turned him in, no one had him arrested.
Right.
So we're not doing our due diligence either. And if anything were to happen, heaven forbid, you know, it'd be our fault. It'd be on us. Like, you could, before it was just their inner circle that knew, but now it's like everybody knows and no one did anything. And if something were to happen, because like there's nothing wrong with just getting a part in a full-time job in retail or whatever.
Right.
You know, he can do stuff. What if he was an accountant? You know, he can do go to an accounting firm. We don't know what degrees he may have.
Right, and that's
a consultant.
Yeah.
You know, there are other things outside of, I guess, journalism that he could do.
Right.
You know, he can be a marketer. You know, I don't know.
Maybe.
And I bet you he could craft a portfolio that would not compromise his image for a job interview. That could look,
well, his name would be right at the top of it, and they would, these companies, they know. Like, they know. They Google everybody, they run background checks, and those things will pop up immediately, and they'll be like, oh yeah, we don't, hire even potential pedophiles, right? So it's just kind of like, I couldn't think of what he could do, especially to support him financially, because typically when those people have those kind of finances from just, because he was at pretty much 1 million subscribers, so I can assume that he had probably a way above average lifestyle. So how do you sustain that? Like, you know what I mean?
Who knows? Like, even before all this went down, he wasn't uploading videos for months. I mean, like, he took a pretty big hiatus from YouTube and somehow actually gaining subscribers. I think he was maybe doing stuff on his Pro Jared Plays channel, his Let's Play channel.
Yeah.
So maybe he was doing more stuff there and on Twitch. So maybe he was building a persona there.
Probably so.
Increases. But yeah, on the YouTube side of things, he pretty much said, I don't need to be as, up and up with it.
Well, as far as like people just kind of sitting and just kind of watching it happen and not really reporting, there is I think it was a psychology study. I forget the name of it. But basically, they tested to see, like, what would happen if somebody would... No, actually, no, I remember now. There was a study done on a woman was screaming in the middle of the night at, like, 1 a.m. or something like that because she was being robbed. And by 3 a.m, you didn't hear screaming anymore.
Yeah.
And then by, like, I think 10 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock in the morning... the police found her dead. But they found her. They didn't like get a call, but they just found her. And so what happened is that psychologists got a hold of this and did a case study on it, and they kind of grabbed up the people that were kind of living around in the apartments that could actually hear the screaming. And the reason why they didn't call the police is because they thought the other person would call. So it's like, naturally, people are all kind of waiting for the other person because they're like, I don't have to do it because the other person will do it. And it's kind of like when everybody gets their phones out and records stuff, even though it could, no matter how violent or grotesque it could be, they're all just recording it. And somebody can be like, call 911, call 911. And everybody in the room thinks that, oh, they'll call 911. I don't have to. They'll call 911. And it just goes around the room and ends up nobody calls the police at all. It's freaking crazy, but we're naturally kind of not always wired to be that way, but it happens.
Or yeah.
It happens a lot more often than people think.
Beta, I guess. More beta mentality.
I wouldn't say that's beta mentality necessarily. I would just say just people are kind of
not taking the initiative.
Yeah, just naturally, they don't want to get involved, basically, into somebody else's drama, kind of, sort of. They like watching it. We all love watching reality television and watching the drama.
So hypocritical about it, like this gaslighting, calling people out. It's like in the anonymity of the internet, people are able to be like, oh yeah, be self-righteous and everything. Like, oh, that's wrong. You shouldn't be doing that. We're going to call you out.
Yep.
Everyone's going to be on your P's and Q's on the internet. But once it gets away from that, well, people's bark is louder than their bite.
Yeah.
It
is crazy. That hypocritical world we live in, man.
That was that was heavy. That's just depressing.
Yeah, it's just not the happiest thing, but it is what it is. That's the world we live in, unfortunately. But hey.
So yeah, I hope people are better than that. I hope we can get better than that.
I hope so too. I doubt we do, but I hope we do.
No, glass half full.
No. I mean, I hope they pour water on my glass, but I know it's gonna stay empty. All the servers. Oh, I thought you were gonna pour his water. Oh, okay, he's gonna pour.
But you're actually assigned to that table.
I thought that was your table. Oh man.
Well, let's lighten the mood. A little bit.
Well, the next topic isn't. I mean, it's lighter, but
it's something we can have more fun with.
Yeah. Oh God, I get to tell this story for this one.
So, story time with King Black. What happened to you today?
All right, so... Oh, wait. Okay, no. Open up with the topic first, otherwise it's not gonna make sense.
All right.
Yeah.
So, a little background history on us.
Mm-hmm.
We play Final Fantasy 14, as we said earlier in the podcast.
Yep. And
so, let's see. The main topic of our discussion right now... Where is it? We are full. Our community is, from what we see it, is a bunch of we wants.
Yep.
We want this. We need this. We need that. Gimme.
Oh yeah.
So, for anyone who does play 14, you all right, just hold your hearts. It ain't that serious. Just opinions, observations. Don't take anything too personal. But Final Fantasy 14 community evolving into a community of narcissists. Could this to people wanting what is it? Here it is. Yeah, what are your thoughts on the Final Fantasy community with everyone thinks it's their way is the best way? Is the community full of narcissists? What makes them so entitled?
All right, here we go. Let me rub my hands together for this one, man. This is... Because I'm about to offend some people with this story. Okay, so there's a guy at my job. He's a cook, and I was kind of training him to be a cook or whatever, showing him the ropes, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, hey, what are you into? He's like, he was saying he's into Yu-Gi-Oh! And video games, stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, man, it's been a little while since I played Yu-Gi-Oh! But, I'm into like anime and video games too. We're like, oh, cool. So we started talking about just general games. And then he brought up the fact that he played Final Fantasy 14. I was like, oh, for real, man? I was like, yo, I played that game for like 6 years, maybe something like that, a long time. And he's like, oh, really? And I was like, yeah, man. He's like, oh, well, that's awesome. And then he started talking about like what he did in the game. And this is where it hit me like really, really hard, like who exactly I was talking to.
Like a ton of bricks.
Oh man, dude, I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. Like I thought he was. I'll just explain. So I asked him. I said, "Yo, so when did you play? Like, did you play like during Heaven's Ward or like are you OG or like did you play during Stormblood? What'd you think about Stormblood? All that excited for what's the new one? Shadowbringers." He's like, "Oh yeah, I played in Stormblood." And I was like, okay, that's cool, man. So you're kind of new to it, blah, blah, blah. He's like, yeah.
Fresh.
Right. But he played it before Stormblood, too.
Okay.
So this is a Realm Reborn, right? He told me that his main thing he was a Dragoon. And I was like, okay, cool.
A Realm Reborn?
Yeah, his main thing was a Dragoon and a Realm Reborn.
Oh, so he has been playing for a while.
Yeah, he's been playing for a little minute.
He'd be considered a veteran.
Yeah, well, I guess he was off and on, so he didn't really consider himself a vet.
Okay.
That's okay. There's more to that part.
Okay. No, yeah. Tell your story. Well, I guess it'll happen organically. We'll get to it.
So, and I'll go ahead and just get to it. So, he told me that his favorite thing on Dragoon was tanking. And I was like, wait, what? And this is me just trying to play it cool with my coworker. I was like, oh, really? You like tanking as Dragoon, bro? He's like, oh, dude, I love it, man. So this is what I did, right? And he's getting all excited. So I'm just kind of just hearing what he has to say. And he goes, yeah, I used to go in dungeons and raids, and I would tank as a Dragoon. And I was like, how did you do that? He's like, okay, so check this out, man. Like, I did this thing. It was so smart. He goes,
my job, Crystal.
No, it's worse, man. He put a bunch of vitality into all of his armor. And then he what did he say? He said he put like lifesteal into his build somehow. And he was saying, yeah, that's how I was able to tank. And then the tanks used to get mad at me because I was there like, oh, do your job. You're not doing your job. We're not going to win, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, but I didn't care. I just kind of did whatever I wanted to do. And I hate that roles exist in this game. Everybody's they just need to just have fun and be able to do whatever they want. And so then I tried to kind of talk some sense into him a little bit. I said, well, Dragoons are usually a DPS, and so if you're tanking as a Dragoon, you're not really doing your job. He's like, oh, well, my healer buddy would always keep me alive, so it didn't matter. And then I was like, okay. He's like, yeah, I hate those elitists that always talk about this and that and da-da-da-da. And then I was like, oh, well, to be honest with you, man, I was a super elitist whenever I played that game. And he goes, oh, really? So you did all the raiding and stuff like that, too? I was like, yeah, you could say I raided a little bit. Yeah, whatever. I was just trying to downplay it or whatever. I'm not wasn't trying to be bragging or anything like that. But he goes and says, well, I did a ton of raiding. I tanked in all the raids as a Dragoon. And... Did you clear any? Well, okay, here's the beauty of this. Each time he played it, he only played for a month.
So these are like bite-sized injections of him playing.
But there's a reason why they're bite-sized. He said that the reason why he didn't want to keep playing because he felt like it didn't make sense for 14 to want money from him every month. Yeah. Yeah, bro. Yeah. He's like 14 needs to be free to play. I don't know why the heck it's not free to play. And I was like, bro, do you know they got expansions and this and that and blah blah. He's like, oh well, they don't need to. They just make it free to play and then we can still have all that stuff anyways. I was like, how do they make money? It's like, oh, that doesn't matter. They need to just do it for the players. That's what players want. That's what players need. And I asked him, I was like, do you have any like, have you seen any like studies on that or any forums or anything? It's like, oh well, no, I just know, like, come on, man, players want that, like everybody wants that, and that's what's best for their company, man. That's the only thing that's gonna make their. It's like, I guarantee you, if they don't make Shadowbringers free to play, nobody's gonna play the expansion. Nobody, not a single person. And at this point, I was just like,
pretty much checked out.
I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone, man. I couldn't even comprehend some of the stuff he was saying, and it just. But he believed it as fact. Every bit of it he was saying. So this guy, I felt like he is the embodiment of all the people I see on the Zalera Facebook forum and all the Final Fantasy forums, just complaining about just like nonsense and then doing stuff in the game that logically is nonsensical as well.
Well, this guy, I'm even surprised that you even met him.
I know, right? It was a man. It was. I work with him now too, so like
you see him every day.
I see him almost every day.
Like,
so he's a real person, I promise.
He seems like a super extreme to like some people in the community, but I understand the connection that you're making.
Yeah.
Just the fact that the game should be tailored to how they envision it to be.
Yep.
Bottom line.
Yep.
And the community of 14 is definitely split up into, I guess, three segments. At least just to simplify things.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. I see where you're going with that.
So the spectrum is laid out. You have your quote-unquote elitists,
right?
You know, on one end of the spectrum. Then you have the quote-unquote casuals, I guess, which would be the role players, you know, people who really like the cosmetics of the game, who just look at it as a community game.
Yeah.
You know?
That's more of your crafters, kind of sort, generally speaking, crafters. Yeah.
And then in the middle is the average person.
Mm-hmm.
But it sucks because we all know that there are people from all different types of walks of life going to the forums and saying how the game should be. It's super diverse.
Oh, yeah.
And it comes down to how it's a full-time job. It's like, how do you shift through any of that? You know? Now, it's like, okay, well, there's no bad idea, is there? It's like, well, because like, we don't want to silence people,
right? Yeah,
you know, just because we don't agree with their take on the direction of the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because that stunts, you know, progression, innovation, whatever. Maybe that's a too strong of a word, but it stunts the possibilities of like, okay, what could possibly be in the, you know, just the sharing of ideas.
Right.
But I'm like picking my words here.
Nah, man, just say it. This is off the cuff, man. We're just letting it fly, man. We don't care what nobody says about this from 14. Like, this is just because, you know, it's got to come from the heart. Like, you know, you could just lay it out, man. Say what you feel.
Look, we play the game. We fell in love with the game for certain aspects.
Yep.
You know, certain aspects of like a lot of people like the story.
Yep.
You know, a lot of people like it, the fact that it was just Final Fantasy and it was tied to Square, period. You know, a lot of nostalgia was tied into that. Then you have people who actually played it for the content and like the raids, the dungeons, the hard fights. And if we're just going based off of ARR, that was where it was at. You know, you can just say we're grumpy old, you know, veterans, but that's where it was at its peak.
Yeah.
You know,
that's what I feel too.
Where the identity of 14 was clearing the content, you know, going through the raids, fighting this, you know, the super bosses. Going Titan Extreme to this day is a hard fight, you know, for people, and people sticked around and played it for that content. You know, wiping to Twintania, you know, wiping to Nail.
Oh
T9.
God, Jesus Christ.
You know, so it's like, okay, so we see different things that, like, we know what made 14 successful. You know, and so it's like, okay, if that's what made it good and that's where the core audience was built off of, why not continue to cater to the core audience? Is that what you're getting at?
Well, I kind of was like noticing just the I don't know, it was just interesting meeting him because I felt like he, although a little bit extreme in some aspects, but I think he was spot on in some others. I felt like that is not the majority of the 14. Well, maybe it seems like it is the majority.
It's growing.
Yeah, it's a growing cancer. Yeah, it's slowly becoming the majority of players. But it's
like we've seen the fights change over time.
Yeah,
become way more accessible.
Right.
You know, yeah, people who've gone through the fights in Stormblood, even though those fights are newer, I'm not sure they would still have a rough time going through the fights of ARR.
Yeah, and
not because it's dated, it's just because what's asked of you is way more strict.
Yeah,
you know, then the mechanics are way more tight. It's less forgiving. You know.
Well, I feel like and not to segue too much into something else, but the way 14 is now, 14 to me, at least I think what I'm feeling and what I hear other people feeling that play World of Warcraft, 14 is kind of going through that same cycle where, like, Classic WoW's about to come out soon, and the reason why people love Classic is actually, weirdly enough, the same reasons, almost the exact same reasons why people like A Realm Reborn. Because, like, A Realm Reborn only had, like, one difficulty. There was no, you know what I'm saying, there was no, like, you had your extreme modes and your normal modes, which, that was different, it was just for primals or whatever, but, like, as far as the raids, you just did the raid.
Yeah.
But now, when they introduce Heaven's Ward, and even more so in Stormblood, you have these normal modes of the dungeons or whatever, which that would be, like, in WoW terms of today, I think that's like your heroic, mythic, and then like mythic plus or something like that.
Yeah.
It's basically the same cookie cutter format, but I feel like they're just running into the same problems because the WoW community and all the gripes that they have seem exactly almost brother and sister comparison to, like, the 14 community. Even though they're separate games, but I feel like 14 is kind of not fully copy pasting World of Warcraft, but they're doing, like, the same similar structure, but I think they're going to end up going in the same route as WoW where they are now.
Well, that's interesting because, like, we're getting we can't ignore the fact we're getting a lot of WoW refugees into 14.
That's true.
A lot of them, you know, and 14 is probably seeing some of their highest numbers, you know, that they've seen in between expansions, you know, especially for this period. This period is definitely where you see the lull as far as people playing, you know, engagement and stuff like that.
Right.
But I would have to say this may be one of their highest points, at least looking at those time periods, you know, the in between ARR to Heaven's Ward, the in between from Heaven's Ward to Stormblood, Stormblood into Shadowbringers, most people from those respective points in times of those expansions, a lot of them are a lot of the population is probably being overshadowed from the WoW community, people coming over and driving that engagement, which is surprising. I mean, usually you don't see that. And so I know your take on it is like, that's not going to last.
No, it's not. Also, like, there's a thing about World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy. See, World of Warcraft, the players from that game are more so your alright. If I were to divide them, like, politically speaking, I feel like if I were to divide WoW and the 14 community as far as like where they are on the political spectrum, I feel like WoW is more on the right, like hard right, and then 14 is like super left. Like that's in 14, your likelihood of like meeting like a legit like feminists or like liberal people, stuff like that, is like people that are like massive supporters of the LGBTQ community that like actually go to like parades and stuff like that and host events. Your likelihood of meeting those kinds of people are super high in that game, which is nothing wrong with that. It's just like those groups mixing is not going to end well, because I remember meeting some people that came over from WoW to 14 while I was playing. And what happened was that they were too hardcore for the 14 community to handle. Because WoW people are more like, you have to actually fill out an application to join their guild. Like, that's how a lot of guilds are in World of Warcraft. 14 has none of that. I think I can only think of like probably maybe a couple of free companies that are like that.
Some people on Elysium. I mean, on Gilgamesh.
There's probably no more than like 6. But World of Warcraft is like... P-World... I mean... So the P-World's a little bit different. Those guys have been playing video games together for like the past like 10 years. Or maybe even more. So like they're a really tight-knit group that like... They don't really like deviate too much from the people that they've already been playing with prior, kind of, sort of. So that they're a little bit, or at least their main raid group or whatever. But yeah, they come from those days of like, you need to fill out a literal paper application and like sign it, date it. Somebody's gonna print it out, put it in a file cabinet, and they're gonna give you a call back to see if you.
Oh my gosh!
I cannot make like that is. I know that sounds like a meme and a joke, but I mean like. Those people are like, they're serious to a level that the 14 community's never even seen before. I've never even seen before. I've just seen it now that I've been kind of doing a bit of digging into the WoW community, just because it's just interesting, just trying to get to know and understand. I guess the past, kind of, sort of.
Yeah. I guess from the testimonials that I've seen, and unfortunately, like, a lot of it's anecdotal. Just from personal experience. I mean, I've seen people say this is a breath of fresh air for some people coming from WoW to 14. So like, wow, everything's just so way more laid back. Not as serious. I can just do things without, worrying about, upsetting people. Or these people are way harder to upset compared to people in WoW.
Well, I think that's because of the period that the game is in right now. Because at this point in the game, before expansions are around, you don't really interact with people much. Most people are just kind of just playing on their own because they don't really need people. But as soon as the expansion drops, what usually happens is that you need people for raids, you need them for dungeons, you need them for fates so you can level.
No one does fates.
No one
does fates anymore.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you have like alts or whatever, you kind of sort of have to at least do a couple fates. While you're queuing up for a dungeon, of course.
Oh, you just go to Palace of the Dead.
Oh, jeez, God.
That's what you do. It's the fastest way to do it.
Well,
just go to Palace of the Dead. If you're doing, especially if you're DPS, Palace of the Dead, go from 1 to 50.
Well,
that way.
The veteran player knows that, but this is like, the average. I think the average player won't even know.
Oh, because like the mentor, the network, the mentor network chat.
Yeah.
14 on my alt, since I'm not in it on my main character, but my main character is up to date. But my alt, since he's been away for so long, he got put into the network. And wow, just to see how many people are actually talking in that chat on Zalera is quite impressive. And a lot of them are new people talking to veterans and mentors and stuff like that. And they do give them advice. And like a mentor is going to tell them, like, look, just cut the BS. Just go into Palace of the Dead. Yeah, you may get tired of it after, grinding it up to like 30 levels or so. Okay, take a break. Go queue up for a dungeon if you want. Go do leveling for a little bit. If you don't mind the queue times. Do a leave here and there in between that, or a fade. But they're gonna get back on that, House of the Dead grind once they get some breathing room. It's the most efficient way to do it. I mean, unfortunately.
Even in Palace of the Dead, I think they can't escape from that. The fact that they're going to come in, those two groups are going to come together at some point.
Eventually. Just
because the game forces you to do that. Right now, not so much. When the expansion drops, it's going to be a lot. And also, really quick thing, I think the whole mentorship system is a joke. Like that is the most laughable thing.
Well, it wasn't the greatest thing to begin with. I mean, it was just a status symbol for a lot of people.
I even mean like its existence in its entirety is an absolute joke to me.
Oh, people trying to mentor the newer players?
Absolutely. Is it a 100% joke?
Why is that?
Because it's like, if you have a person, so okay, this is my philosophy on like mentorship and like classes in that game, right? So if I remember correctly, the rules to become a mentor is that you need to have like all of the like general trials done or whatever, and then you need to have go ahead.
It's level up,
right?
At least the main roll's to 60, so have a tank up to 60, have a DPS up to 60, and have a white mage up to 60.
Right.
And on the opposite end of that, you gotta have a crafter up to 60.
Right.
Because it's 60 because that's when it was implemented in Heavensward. That was the max level at the time.
Exactly.
And they haven't changed that.
Yep.
And then after that, you need to have so many battles done as well. Let me see. It's like 1,000 battles done, like 1,000 like trials or whatever would may qualify for that. I don't know if I see 14 mentor requirement. To qualify as a mentor, certain achievements, these two. Oh dear. Okay, I didn't want to spend too much. I thought it was just going to be quick.
Yeah, it's a little lengthy. But anyways, all those things.
Yeah. Oh, here it is. Okay. You need to have, so like the jobs, like I said, you need to have completed 1,000 dungeons, raids, or trials.
Oh, and then, God, that's even okay. Go ahead.
And then, which I mean, by nowadays that's pretty lenient because you can combine dungeons, raids, and trials together to get up to that 1,000. And then you need to have 300 player commendations as well.
Oh, dude. Okay, so this system is even worse than what I thought it was. Like, I was gonna go in on it, but I have to super go in. This system is trash because you can achieve all those things by playing the game for only like 3-4 months. And it's just like
super easy.
What happens is it's essentially the problem that the community's facing right now, where
the blind leading the blind.
Yeah, you'll see people on the Facebook forum saying, "Oh well, hey guys, I'm trying to get into raiding and this and that," or "Hey, anybody got any rotation tips for ninja or whatever, and it's all these people that are like, oh yeah, I have the mentorship and I maxed my ninja out and blah 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 yada yada yada, right? But if you go and look at like their history as far as like them doing content, they're not even really qualified to even speak on the class. Because like there's a huge difference between somebody that's like rated as a ninja and then like really rated as a ninja. I'm not saying that in order to be, actually no, I am kind of saying that if you're not like at the tippy tip top of FF logs, like don't even be a mentor for a class, bro, because you're wasting the other person's time. Because those people, generally what I've noticed is that when people come to you for advice about a class or whatever, they're trying to get good. And what happens is that they'll get advice from these people that are like, they'll pretend in their minds they think they're amazing, but they're really like not even, they're beneath subpar. So it's just like, these are your mentors? Like, really? And especially for the people that have like maxed out everything. People that I've noticed that the people that have maxed out every single class in the game are some of the worst players in the entire ecosystem of 14, because they are a user of many but a master of none.
Yeah.
So it's just like, and I hate to be ranting about this. I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate for this, but I don't really care because I don't play no more. But but yeah, well, man, that mentorship thing, that's some crap, man. It really makes. It doesn't make players better. It makes the majority of players actually get worse.
So then I guess I can ask you, what's the main objective of the mentorship program? Is it just to make the players the best that they can be? Or is it just to make the journey of playing through the game to max level a little bit easier for people?
I think neither one.
Huh?
I think neither one.
Well, I would think Square Enix objective in implementing it is to nurture the process from getting from 1 to 60 or 70 or 80, whatever number, the easiest it can be, finding where trials are, finding where, quests are and stuff like that, just to make the process as smooth as possible from beginning to end. Not so much.
Then why are there requirements to become a I think the whole purpose of the mentorship thing is to make people feel special whenever they become a mentor.
At first, that's definitely what it was. I won't even lie. I definitely grinded out my white mage to get up to 60 to get it, because I had everything else. I just didn't have a mage, so I was like, yeah, why not? I want a crown, And at the time, since Square doesn't like to,
they don't like
idolize
the crown players.
Huh?
They don't like to, basically, like you say, they don't like the crown players, which they should do that, but they don't.
They don't want to, reward people for their, I guess, loyalty, or say to segregate people and say like, hey, I've been playing for this long, I'm a veteran. The most that you'll see of that is the 1.0 tattoo that people have and the special chocolate they get from playing 1.0. The legacy players.
They do it for PvP rankings.
You mean the rewards?
Oh, no, there's like a rank. Like, there's a rank 1 PvP player, but they don't do it for, like, rating. Like, they do it for PvP.
Oh, because
and they do it for casuals.
Invested into PvP, or at least not really.
People are, apparently, because there's a whole, like, PvP community. Granted, I think it's a joke, but I mean, like...
But, like, how small is that demographic? Like, they are 1% of a 1%.
It's smaller than the rating community.
Yeah, and that's exactly my point.
So they're crowning all the communities except for the rating community.
Well, are they really crowning it? Because no one pays attention to that. It's its own little island of players and content that no one pays attention to. I couldn't tell you who's on the PvP rankings, and no one else in the community could, unless you're a part of that community. So they're their own little clique, so to speak.
Well, they also rank guilds. They also rank guilds and free companies.
And do people actually look at them?
It's on their main website for the Lodestone.
Maybe I'm detached because like I feel like who really looks at that?
It's
well, that doesn't even mean anything.
And I know maybe you don't look at it, but I've had conversations with people that say like, oh man, this guild is the best guild in the whole thing. I'm gonna switch to their server. And I've actually had conversations with people like that. And at the time, I'm like, wait, isn't Elysium the best guild in the game? At least at that point, because they were, I think they beat some fight or whatever. And they're like, oh no, Elysium who, man? Those guys, I never even heard of those guys. And it was just like, what the heck? So PvPers get their crown, the casuals get their crown, which is the mentorship. But if you are a hardcore raider, and just, frankly speaking, you don't get dick. You don't get nothing.
And I guess you could just think that like Square Enix is just like, well, it's less toxic if we do that. I mean,
why is that fair? Like,
I know I'm not saying it's right, but I guess as a developer standpoint, it's like saying, picking and choosing their battles is not to make people feel excluded.
They already do with the mentorship.
Like no one cares about it. That's why it doesn't matter. Because we all know it doesn't matter at the end of the day. So like having that,
but people obviously care because they shoot for it. Just like you said a few minutes ago, right? Like you were like,
But yeah, that was me back. That was like what 4 years ago when that was relevant,
right?
Like,
but if you're a new player and you see people, if you're brand new to the game, just wet behind the ears, you have no idea that the mentor system is a joke. To you, it's going to be a big deal. And PvP will be a big deal to you. But as far as like raiding there is no raid scene. The raid scene is just created by the raiding community. 14 has completely neglected that community, just like they've done for years.
I mean, the only thing that like people would say that you have your trophies and your crowns would be the mounts.
Man, that ain't...
People like the mounts.
Come
people
on.
Do. No, I'm serious.
Oh, all right, I'll give you another. I'll make it even worse. Palace of the Dead had a ranking for the number one player in Palace of the Dead to solo content.
Mm-hmm.
That has a ranking that's made by Square.
Yeah.
And they're just going to give mounts for the raiding community. But these other people get like actual like things that are like distinguishable, kind of, sort of. You know what I mean?
Because House of the Dead is not in the spotlight of the game. PvP is not in the spotlight of the game. It's not front and center on the main page. People are not looking and seeking out that. Even if you're casual, hardcore, raiding is on the front page.
Raiding's not on the front page at all.
It's in the front page of people's mindsets.
Yeah, but why? If it's in the front of people's minds, right? Why doesn't Square do anything about that? Because they
don't want people to feel excluded.
But they already exclude people with the PvP rankings
because
and the
those
mentorship things
are insignificant in the larger picture of things. People actually don't care about that. That's why I'm what I guess where I'm trying to make my point is that all those things that people have titles in Palace of the Dead, PvP, all the other side content is irrelevant to the larger scope. For some reason, raiding is put on a pedestal and looked under as such scrutiny of the thought of exclusivity in raiding is blasphemous. People get up in arms. That's why we have things like normal mode and savage mode implemented into the raiding tiers now. People hated to feel left out, even though you can just, the toxic word of get good, people just need to get good. If you can't get good, then tough luck. But Square was not willing to take that bullet, to take that risk. So they implemented a normal mode for people to go through, so they can still experience the fights, the story, and then they thought that okay, well, the next best thing is to implement a savage mode for people. But if we go even further to exclude people and put a title rankings or whatever, I feel like they feel like that'd be going too far.
Well, I don't see why. Why not? I don't even. I really don't see the reason. Like, I don't see the logic behind like not doing that. It seems like it seems more logical to do it.
No, yeah, well, they don't have that, I guess, luxury anymore because they've already pulled their punches in the past. I mean, Steps of Fate. Steps of Fate proved they were at a crossroads with that fight, leading into ARR to Heaven's Ward. They gated content for once, for the first time. Well, not even for the first time, but main story content was gated behind a fight, and it was it a hard fight?
Nope.
I wouldn't think so. Was it an unorthodox fight?
Yep.
Maybe, but doesn't. For some reason, people got up in arms and did not want to. They got agitated. They got cranky. Well, maybe a little bit entitled.
Well, wait, they did it again after Steps of Fate.
Well, no, yeah, I've been saying Steps of Fate is the first time that happened.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's
and after that, there was no turning back.
Right.
They could have set a standard. It's like, this is what we're going to ask of our players. This is the minimum. This is the bar that we're going to be setting for people to be able to pass, and have the skill and ability to do so, to progress. Well, they're like saying like, well, it's more economical and financial in our best interest to make the fight a little bit easier so more people can get through and not get frustrated and just quit.
Well, see, that's an interesting thing because that is the exact same thing the WoW community is complaining about. That same thing where they are making the fights easier and easier and easier each expansion. And from the way it looks, I don't think 14 is going to have as long of a ride as World of Warcraft. Just because there's too much competition in comparison to when World of Warcraft was around. So the way it looks like is that I think they got like probably 2 more expansions, because the other problem is that 14 releases content a lot. So the way Square does it with 14, which is another problem, but I hope they fix this for their sake, but they release too small amounts of, like, their content is too small every single time they release something. So they will release, you'll have a raid tier, and then you might get like a dungeon or 2, and then that's kind of it. You'll get a primal once the raid tier is kind of gone a little while. You'll get a primal, you'll get another primal, and then you might get some more story, or you will get some more story, 100%. They're going to add in some gimmicky thing like, I don't know, crafter battling or some dumb, stupid crap like that randomly. And then they will finally add the next raid tier. Now, the raid tiers are only 4 fights. Now, granted, they have their own difficulties or whatever, but if I remember correctly, World of Warcraft, the way they do their releases, they release entire wings. So it's like you're not being dropped into 4 fights. You're being dropped into like 7 or 8 fights. And they all have their levels of difficulty. So like they each have like, I think 3 or 4 levels of difficulty for all 8 fights.
So basically you're just getting the whole expansions, fights, or raid tier all at once.
Well, and then you're getting stuff added on even after that. So it's like, that's one thing I've noticed Square has a problem with is content drought. Because right after an expansion releases usually, everybody plays and is gung-ho about Final Fantasy XIV for a month, and then they all leave. And then the raid scene comes out, they come back, but usually about a quarter into the raid scene, everybody leaves again because they're like, oh, well, the raids are too hard or these are too easy. And then there's the people that only log on to even raid, and then as soon as raid is done for the week, they leave and never come back until next week. So it's just like, I don't think that that's sustainable, from what I've seen at least.
Now, I'm not as educated with WoW stuff in their progression on their expansions. From what it seems like is that you just basically getting the content all at once. So yeah, you're not going to have a drought super early on like you would with 14.
Right.
But you see that drought later. You see that drought, midway through the expansion, if you're lucky, and people don't retain as long. You don't get a steep drop off in the beginning. It's basically it's stagnating the drop offs. I think what 14 is doing. So we may have a fall off after the main story of 4.0 or 3.0, whatever. The initial launch of the expansion. But then after that, Square's idea is like, okay, we're gonna entice them to still keep engaged with us later down the line. It's like, come back 2 months from now and there's gonna be more content to keep you playing within the expansion cycle, which is roughly 2 years. Sending out drips of content within those within the 2 years to keep people coming back every other month or so is what they have things planned out. So they stabilize the content. They stabilize the content drought, and they stabilize everyone's retention time and engagement.
Well, but see, I think that is problematic, because so the only reason why World of Warcraft got away with it for so long is the fact that you didn't really have a choice as far as like what MMOs to play for a long time. Now today, Square kind of came with 14 at a time where people were kind of getting tired of WoW, and then a bunch of other MMOs came out, but a lot of them just kind of failed and fell through. So now people have been kind of afraid to make MMOs.
Well, Square failed as well.
Well, yeah, they failed along, right? Well, I'm talking about more along when A Realm Reborn was out. Because I think by that point, Terra had kind of already died, and then a bunch of other ones kind of came out along with 14 that just couldn't really make it all the way through, and it was just 14 that made it. So it's just 14 and WoW pretty much currently, but it's been like almost 6, 7, 8, maybe 9, maybe not 9. Well, what year is it? 2019? It's been like 7, 8 years actually. So now I think we're approaching like a kind of a new generation for gaming, and I've been noticing that there's a lot of MMOs in development that are actually going to be coming out like this year, that I feel like, I don't know if they'll necessarily, I don't think they're going to kill 14, but I think that if they keep doing this content in little bite-sized pieces, they're going to get people to come back, but I think the amount of people that do come back are going to slowly over time get smaller and smaller and smaller as these other MMOs get more and more stabilized as far as their communities are concerned.
No, yeah, and Square can't stagnate, and I'm mostly just trying to give like the other side of the other perspective, I guess, of the overall situation.
Yeah, I got you.
Because like it can't be denied and unstated that we've been getting less content overall, relatively speaking, as the expansions have gone on.
Yeah.
In ARR, we were guaranteed 3 dungeons every single patch.
Right.
And then in Heaven's Ward, that got reduced down to 2.
Yeah, now I think nowadays it's like 1.
It's 2. It's
or is it kind of random sometimes? Seems like sometimes it's 1 and sometimes it's 2.
It fluctuates. It alternates between 2 and 1 dungeons every patch. So that's what we're doing. But either way, progressively we've gotten less and less content. Now, other people will argue that they've tried to make up for it in other ways. They've been experimenting more. We've gotten Palace of the Dead. We've gotten the treasure maps, the Lost Isles Uznair, I think that's what it's called, in Heaven's Ward. We also got Diadem in Heaven's Ward, or Diadem, whatever you want to say. But unfortunately, with those experimental variety types of content, we've gotten mixed receptions between them, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
The best one coming out of Heaven's Ward was definitely House of the Dead at the time, because it was fresh, it was new, it was actually, you had some challenging aspects to it with the levels. 1 to 50 was a decent challenge for most people, and then 50 to 100 or 100 plus, that's where you really got into the hard stuff. I'm even getting them a little bit confused. There was even levels after 100 to 200. That's where you had like, okay, that's your hardcore stuff. You're making pre-made parties and stuff, and okay, that was interesting, and the dynamic was interesting as far as the mechanics, and it wasn't your normal dungeon. Diadem, we're all gonna say it was a unanimous failure for the most part.
Oddly enough, I actually really enjoyed Diadem.
Oh really?
Yeah, I thought it was really fun. I don't know, it was kind of cool how like
the idea is cool.
Well, I think even the way it was executed was done right, because and this may sound weird, but in A Realm Reborn, I specifically remember. Oh, okay, all right. So this all makes sense. The reason why I liked Diadem is because Diadem felt like the days where you would go and kill like Odin or like Behemoth. I got that same kind of vibe from them, that thing, and I'm like, oh, yo, man, this is just like back in the day where, all the shout chats and link shells would be like, yo, Odin's up, Odin, and then you'd go fight Odin and he'd kill your entire server, and it was great. But Diadem kind of brought me back to those days. Granted, it got a little stale after a while, that just happens, but nonetheless, for those brief moments, I enjoyed it for the brief time that I did it.
I mean, unfortunately, I feel like you being the minority.
Oh yeah, super minority. Oh yeah.
And like the concept of Diadem was cool, taking your FC type content, and going in there and queuing up to kill mobs.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it wasn't designed well enough to play the way that I think they intended players to play.
Yeah.
Because, and we said this before in our other concept, flying has done a lot to hurt the game as far as engagement.
Dude.
So the biggest thing with Diadem is like, basically, you would just look for the Aether Currents in the zone and skip out all the mobs. You wouldn't fight with any of the mobs there. You would just sneak past them, get the Aether Currents. If you died, your party would res you, and then you would move on. And once everyone had flight, okay, now we can go to the places where there really was the treasure chests that we were looking for, and the important fates that were gonna unlock other bosses and monsters on the map that you really needed to get items and your what are those tokens to get your weapon pieces and stuff like that, and your minions and all that different stuff.
That whole flying thing, that's another thing that I think because they released a beta for Classic WoW or whatever to let some people play it. And I was watching like some gameplay and even getting like some of their opinions on what they experienced, stuff like that, and they talked about how much more immersed they were into the game because they had to walk around. And I feel like once again, I think Square is just kind of copying the same thing as the now dying Big Brother MMO. And they're just kind of they're literally just taking every single page from World of Warcraft that they've already done over the past. So the history is doomed to repeat itself because they're just it's almost hard to even put into words like how much these things are so hugely similar. Yeah, it's crazy. So I imagine that I feel like they're just gonna run into the same issues, and it seems like they kind of are. It's just now it's not affecting them financially at this point, but I know it will later. I don't know when later is, but it will.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen that just how content has progressed. They can't keep on doing that because basically it's like a revolving door.
Yep.
You know, people come in, people leave, people come in, people leave, and they seem to be fine with that. You know, I don't know. Except, yeah, we have seen it happen with WoW, and people are now getting agitated with what was it, Balfrazroth? That's the new one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and people are. This is, you know, that was the last straw. Now, are we going to reach that faster with 14? I don't know. Yeah. You know, and 14's actually their main plan is like their cycle for the game is like 10 years. So the game's actually getting pretty close to that in general.
Wait, whoa. What do you mean cycle?
So the initial roadmap for the game, Yoshi P and the developers and stuff in Square Enix, was 10 years. So the main line of, like, you know, as far as the story from where we were in ARR to wherever we'll be from Shadowbringers and beyond was 10 years mapped out. After that, you know, it was up in the air. Now they probably know some stuff now, you know, judging on how 14 has grown over the years, if, you know, what stuff they want to do after that initial roadmap. But the initial roadmap and plan, schematics, whatever you want to call it, was 10 years.
That's interesting.
And we're basically getting close to that 10 years.
Yeah.
You know? Because what? ARR was 2012.
Yep. Now it's 2019, so 2022. Yep. Wow. Oh, real quick. For anybody, you know, listening or whatever, don't think that I like hate 14, because I don't. I played it for years, and I loved it. It's just like, it's kind of like 14's kind of
the best for 14.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like an ex-wife to me. It's like, I loved her, and I always will love those moments we had. It's just towards the end of our relationship, she decided to change on me, man. She switched it up. She wasn't, you know, she didn't, you know, she wasn't watching. She wouldn't, you know, rub my back no more. She wouldn't cook me dinner after a hard day's work. You know, I used to come home from like class and be like, college sucks, but 14's great. You know what I mean? It was, and then after a while, it got to a point, you know, it was like, my job sucks and 14 sucks. I'm out. We're getting a divorce. So, I mean, I do have my eyes peeled, and I'm still keeping up with like what's kind of going on. I'm interested to see what happens with Shadowbringers. See if maybe they're finally gonna, you know, stop being stupid and like actually do smart things and not dumb stuff. Which I hope they do, because if they do smart stuff, I'm gonna play. I'll be back. I'll be back on the thing, and just to, you know, be as toxic as I can and link people FF logs and junk. Oh yeah, we'll be back.
I mean, you still got the free trial that you haven't messed with that yet, have you?
So I have 2 of them actually.
Well, yeah, I sent you one.
You sent me one, and somebody else did too. So I guess I will.
Well, I think you need to.
I'd have to buy the expansion.
Well, yeah, you have to buy the expansion when it does come out. But
yeah,
the callback campaign, I think it's going to be ending soon, actually. Oh wait, never mind.
It's already over.
It looks like it's going to happen right before E3.
Oh, okay.
So it ends on the June 3rd.
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely not going. Yeah, it's over.
What? You're not gonna?
No.
You got time if you want to catch up. I mean, and you don't watch cutscenes anyway, like a scrub that you are.
Yeah, but oh man, don't get me started on cutscenes, man.
Oh my goodness,
I do not care about that game's story. I don't care about no little Lala skipping around and some dumb.
The Lalas are evil.
Some dumb little Lala girl gets stabbed and spills her drink or whatever, and then
she didn't get stabbed. She got poisoned. You
stupid
know this.
Pink booby Menphilia is whatever. Man.
Oh my goodness.
And then this stupid Raftalia Rahaban dude meme or whatever blocking off. I don't know. And then this pretty boy Backstreet Boys NSYNC samurai nerd I had to kill. I don't know, man. It's just all this dumb stuff that's in the way of the raid. Where the real fights at, man?
Oh my goodness, you crazy.
I'm in it for the glory.
Mess with that if you don't want to. Some people would say you're the problem.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I have no problem with the other communities existing. I have fun with casual players and stuff like that. It's just like I'm in it. I'm more into games for like the challenge. Mm-hmm. So if a game doesn't really challenge me mentally, I get bored. Mm-hmm. So A Realm Reborn, man, those fights boggled my mind. But the fights currently, they're by no means easy, but I feel like they are more about numbers and less so about mechanics. If you get what I mean when I say that.
Okay, being able to perform under pressure and not so much just having bigger numbers to kill the boss.
Yeah, it's just, basically towards the end of Heaven's Ward, a fight was basically won or lost by the fact of how much HP do you have, not so much of how good are you at this fight.
How good are you at the dance?
Yeah. Now, the Savage modes, those are more so how good are you at the dance, but you still need the HP to get in. Mm-hmm. It's that kind of thing. And I'm not really a fan of that. It's kind of cause especially if I get screwed on drops for weeks, right? It's kind of oh, well, crap, man. I'm sorry I was 300 HP below thingy, but no Bard loot or Dragoon or whatever the heck I decided to play dropped for me last week, so I'm going to keep getting 2-tapped to this mechanic that's undodgeable.
Well, I mean, that's for people putting in the Vitality Mills now.
Man, we're talking with Vitality Mills and food and still dying. But you shouldn't have to, do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You should just be able to, go in the fight, and if you're good enough, you can win. It's kind of I remember I saw, I think it was Xenos' group, they did a level synced, it wasn't level synced, it was they did turn 12 with, Big Bahamut or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think they were all level 50. But I think during that time the max level was 60.
Assuming they went back and did it.
Yeah, they did it all at level 50, which they were actually below what they're supposed to be at. But because they were
well, I mean, Bahamut was level 50 fight.
Was it level 50?
Yeah.
Then what was it that I saw? It was something I saw them do. Can't remember what it was. Basically, what they did is that they handicapped themselves by level. And I don't really remember the details. I have to pull up the video probably. But they handicapped themselves by level, and they were still able to beat the fight because they were just that good. And it was that was impressive to me. Not so much we got really lucky on drops for the past couple weeks, so...
They did a true minimum level.
Yeah, basically that. But you can't really do that anymore. Not really. Just because room-wide AoEs and just dumb stuff like that I'm not really a fan of. But meh, whatever. Not my game. I'm moving over to Classic, boys. It's your boy. Yo, you need a well, nobody needs a warlock. I don't know if I even play a warlock, but anyways, whatever. You know, I'm accepting guild applications, man.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, how many people do you think are actually gonna be like engaged with WoW Classic?
Ooh, Mr.
Like,
Kehda, oh boy.
Because I mean, these are old mechanics. Are people in this current landscape going to be fine with that? I mean, yeah, you definitely have your hardcore people who are going to be nostalgic and actually generally like those types of gameplays with every, you know, and how WoW operated in vanilla before. What was it? Wrath of the Lich King was probably like peak WoW from what I hear from people.
Yeah.
You know. So like,
if you ever get a chance, I say look into it, because this is a huge, especially since I've been seeing like what is actually in the game and what the game was actually like. This is everything. It does everything that 14 like should be doing, but they just don't. Now, granted, it's not perfect, but it's the thing that people are looking for, but I think they just don't know they're looking for it. Yeah, that's all I'll say, man.
Because I mean, you can say there are reasons why they moved away from that stuff and why people kept on playing.
Well, some of the stuff they moved away from it not because necessarily it was bad. It's just because they tried something new and they set the new standard and they're like, oh, let's just do this now. They just kind of moved on. Mm-hmm. But they've moved on, and they wrote the book for how MMOs work today. So everything they did before wasn't all bad. A lot of it is like the foundation for a lot of stuff that you actually do in your MMOs and other games today. Because it's just that old of a game. But
no, it was definitely a pioneer.
Yeah.
You know, it set the landscape for like, you know, groundwork of how you would operate an MMO.
It's basically the equivalent of how Square Enix pretty much has shaped the landscape for how RPGs kind of go down to some extent. The other thing would be probably Dragon Quest.
Yeah.
But with World of Warcraft, the only thing that would probably come close to it is, I believe, EverQuest, I think. So it's like these games are before like gaming, kind of, sort of. Yeah. So it's like they are the groundwork, and a lot of the stuff they did that I'm seeing in this beta that people talk about and said, oh yeah, I remember it was just like this and just like that and da-da-da-da. It's a lot of interesting things that I think developers should really take notes and go back to.
Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with learning from the past, you know, because you don't want to forget where you came from.
Right.
You know? And I guess there's always a balance between the two, you know? A balance between, you know, the old and then the quality of life changes just to make things more digestible for people. You know, a nice balance, I guess, between everything.
Right.
You know, and you could say maybe 14's become a little bit too accessible on that end of the spectrum, but you know,
well,
they definitely,
I feel like they're kind of like trying to reinvent the wheel too much. Mm-hmm. Just because they come up with these great ideas and they don't build upon them. Mm-hmm. Like your Palace of the Dead, the whole the card game that's in that game, Triple Triad.
Yeah,
they just don't. They come up with great things, but they don't build upon them. They just leave them alone and then never revisit them.
Well, Triple Triad, I mean, I guess how much more can you really build upon that? I mean, it's implemented to the world. People know about it. They still have tournaments, but I don't know. But I mean, I guess a better comparison would be like Diadem, I guess. But Diadem now would be compared to Eureka. Because Eureka is like the new open zone, I should say, content, like Eureka was. I mean, that Diadem was.
Well, as far as like Triple Triad goes, they can expand. I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh and Magic the Gathering are still like really, really popular card games that still have like tournaments. And then, I mean, Hearthstone, the game that's from the Witcher people, Gwent, yeah, those games have been around for years. Some of them longer than Triple Triad, and it's like they can add things to that. I just don't know why they just don't, because people really, really enjoy them, but they just leave them alone and they just kind of just rot and die.
Well, then I guess the counter to that would like, would people want them spending development time on a Triple Triad game when they could be spending it on the raids?
They don't spend development time on anything else. They don't spend development time on anything else.
Yeah, they do. They Eureka. They do it on a lot of side content. That's what some people's criticism with the game now is that.
Well, but that doesn't make sense if they're if the general public feels like they're barely coming out with content. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That I feel like that counters that whole claim. But we know that that's true, so it's like they're not even really, they aren't even like really even using their developers to their maximum efficiency, and everybody can tell.
I'm not even sure if it's about their maximum efficiency, because like I think there's a whole lot more heavy lifting that they have to do than we realize, because 14, I mean, this also stems with the new races. You know, the new races that everyone was like complaining, like, why didn't they just do, one, or both races with both genders? Just give us both genders with both races. Mm-hmm. Why cut corners like that? Or it's like, if you're gonna do it, just give us, one race with both genders. People complain about that stuff, and well, this all stems back to stuff with 1.0. The code of 1.0 is. Saying is a hot mess is an understatement. It's way worse than booty cheeks. There's a lot of, as they call it, spaghetti code that is keeping the foundation of the game together, that they can't really disrupt, or it will cause more problems that would be worth the time, that would worth more the time they had to actually fix it.
Right.
And they still need to be productive and actually, produce new stuff on top of this new code. So it's like, it's a giant layer of things that are just compounding on top of each other. So basically, going through the code and going through assets and going through item management and all that stuff to accommodate it for the new races and stuff made it to the point it's like, well, we know people want a beast race. We know people want Fiera because it's a popular thing. So the most efficient thing for them to do, while within the means of the code, was to do one of each. That was something that was feasible for them to do, as far as the countless of different items in the game that needs to be outfitted for those new races, for those new poses and stuff like that. Going through a catalog of tens of thousands of items, how many items are in the game.
Well, then, like, so that's an interesting thing, because it's like, well, if you're putting your whole entire team, or the vast majority of your team, on just created characters and races, what does that say about your game? You know what I mean? Like, you're not putting.
People enjoy that though. People were actually happy about these races. They want that type of content.
Yeah, but if you have a bunny girl and you're in an empty world, then. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the point?
There are some people who are fine with that empty world. Not to say that we would be fine with that, but there are people who just socialize on the game as a social sim, as a glorified chat room. People spend their subs on that.
Yeah, but they don't market their game that way. Like, that's not their audience, though. I mean, I'm sure people do that, but that's not the majority of their audience.
Well, fan feedback and word of mouth definitely does that for them.
And I think that's one thing that I think they're listening to the wrong fans. They've been doing that for years. And what it does, every time they do, it comes back and it bites them every single time. Just like it did with this whole bunny race thing and the lion race thing or whatever. Bit them in the ass.
Or what if it's just the demographic is shifting? Eventually, yeah, we'll get weaned out. The people who are more, combat focused, and then eventually it will just be left for the people who are fine and content with, the moderate bite sizes of, battle content, but they also want to just interact and engage with friends and people in RP and stuff like that.
Well, like companies, it's hard for them to do that because like if a company decides, if they notice that there's a shift in their demographic, right? Mm-hmm. That means they have to change their whole marketing plan. All of the money they've spent, all the partnerships they've done, everything has to be thrown away and they have to start all the way over. Like marketing is like it is the most expensive thing in a business. It is. Mm-hmm. So it's just like for them to start over and then make the Final Fantasy XIV dating game, not only would they start going into competing against other markets they're not even a part of, like they'd have to spend every single dollar in order to even get in these markets. And this is super, this is like a business like no, you just don't do this. Like this is a super huge, no matter how much money you have.
Well, I think you're underestimating like the community itself. I think a lot of people are just a word of mouth. A lot of people are just bringing their friends in just because they know they know the type of content that they engage with and how. So basically, the fans are doing the marketing for them, spreading the word and outreach to that. This is how this game is, and it's bringing. I mean, we've seen it in the chat rooms and stuff, and how the people are engaged. They're nowhere near like how they used to be.
Well, but that's not that many people. Like word of mouth gets you far, but money gets you way farther. Like way farther as far as marketing is concerned.
But even Square's aware of this, so like they know how the demographics and fandom amongst the community is preference to things. So, and Yoshi has even said this to himself about how they delegate what content they reveal at the different fan fests. They save the stuff that's more combat focused for the North American fan fest. So more battle raids and all that stuff, they save it for us. And then they save the more glamour centric type things, lore, story, and all that type of stuff. They save it for the EU fan base over in Europe. And then the Japanese fan base are more the side content, the ancillary content of the content, like the side stuff for 14, the 14 movie on Netflix or whatever, that miniseries they have and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So like all the side content, like figurines and stuff like that. Yoshi P's aware of the landscape and how the player base is changing. And I think I've even told you about this interview about how he's aware that the player base is not as focused about battle content as they used to be, and they're more focused about interactions and living in 14 as a sandbox, so to speak, and just being a world to live in and interacting with their friends.
Well, that is a problem if they make that shift into that, because they didn't start off that way. Mm-hmm. They're going into a market that they're not a part of that already exists, and it's massive.
And I guess I'm thinking like, what if this is happening slowly over time to where it's just that it just happens organically and just
it's not good.
Get phased out.
It's not good for the business at all. It's not a good thing. It's not a thing you look forward to, because it's like going from being I think there's a good example of this. So do you remember the Dead or Alive franchise, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so Dead or Alive for years was about fighting. Just like Tekken, just like Mortal Kombat, just like Street Fighter, it was up there with all of those. Mm-hmm. So what Dead or Alive did is that they decided to, you know what? We have really sexy characters, and our player base really wants to have sex with them or see them in sexual ways, right? Mm-hmm. So let's do volleyball. It's like, okay, jumped into volleyball. Not a problem. There are no volleyball video games. That's great. That's fine. That's dandy. Smart choice. You're the only person in that market. So there isn't, you dominate that market. So it's smart. Now I said, you know what? Volleyball ain't enough. They need to have sex with those girls, 100%. They need to date them, bring them back home, and bang them. That's what needs to happen. So, what does Dead or Alive do? Well, they make it into a beach dating sim game, which is just as the same as like all the other games that exist in Japan like that. Now they entered into a market with a large amount of competition. And what did they do? They were in it for a couple years, but now they're right back to fighting games where they started because it's not sustainable, because they went in over their head. Because the idea is when you go into a market and you dominate a market, which 14 dominated the market as the hardest MMO out, period. That was their main thing. That was the main drive. I remember reading tons of articles about it. It was like, maybe that wasn't their main focus at the time, or they didn't mean to do that, but that's what they were to the public. That's how people played. So now, if they're trying to make this shift into like a more Sims-esque type deal, all it takes is for a new Sims game to be released, or they have so much competition with the Sims, so it's like now they're in a market that they're not number one in anymore.
Well, Sims wouldn't be a direct comparison because Sims is an online thing, you know?
I don't know if that really matters to the consumer, though, because the consumer doesn't see it that way. I think the consumer sees it like this is a simulation game, kind of, sort of. You know what I mean? Or actual.
I think maybe
the
not
novelty
the Sims. What's that?
Maybe not The Sims. What's that game? Second Life. Is that what it is? Yeah. So in Second Life, people can go in and like have sex with each other's avatars, shit like that, which is the thing that the 14 community like pretends to do. You know, you see people go in their houses and lay down naked inside the little hot tub and stuff like. And I ain't gonna lie, I've done that before with it. You know what I'm saying? You know, I ain't gonna front. I'll be honest.
You're fake. You're a poser. You're part of the problem.
Yeah. No, I mean that stuff is fun, but it wasn't like my main thing. That was mostly to like, you know, get girls and stupid shit like that. I was like 17, 19 years old, man. You know. Don't judge me. But yeah, they're in direct competition with Second Life and just like games like that.
Well, I'm pretty sure you have to pay for Second Life, and it comes to a point to where like, well, 14 set up a novelty of, well, you're getting way higher quality content as far as the presentation aspect of it all. You know, prettier models, prettier avatars, all that type of stuff, in prettier environment. You get a fantasy world, you know, to fixate on the, you know, anime demographic, whatever. You know, so I mean, you can see that.
What's the appeal though? If people don't care about that, what if people just want to see each other's characters bang? Then what?
Well, then that's the Second Life.
I don't know, dog, because the community is already simulating that in 14.
So what you're saying, that they're going to reach to a point to where they're going to have a need that won't be facilitated?
The player base is probably going to get to a point to where they want that. And I don't think Square's going to do it.
No, they're not going to.
But they're going to, I think eventually, man, those gamer nerds are going to get horny. They're going to be like, yo, Square, we want more revealing this, more revealing that. We already have the super huge growing modding community of 14 where everybody has their characters running around naked. So it's just like they're setting themselves up for something. They're doing the Dead or Alive.
To where it's not sustainable.
Nah, I don't think so, man. I mean, I think they can do it for a little while. I think they can pretend and play, but Square is not that kind of company where they're going to be like, oh yeah, we're going to have sex in our game, or
no, and it would turn off everyone else.
Yeah, it would just destroy everything.
It's just enough, I guess you could say, TNA content to where it's satisfying enough for the people who are here, and just enough for people who are curious about it to get their feet wet. And if there are people who want even more, well, they can do the mods if they want to put that much time into it, or they can go to Second Life or wherever they want to get that fix. But for the majority of stuff, for 14's fulfilling the need
right
of
now,
the ERP and RP and all that stuff and whatever.
Right now, but those ERPers, bro. The only reason I know was because I've been in that world before. Yo, when I wasn't raiding, I was all up in that world, bro. I was all up in it. Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness.
100%, no doubt. Yup.
Because I mean, we even have games that fulfill that need even better than 14 does. We have games like Boob and Soul and Black Desert, who have vastly better character creations and models than 14.
But those games are focused on fighting.
Are they though?
Absolutely. You can't, like, if you play, I mean, you can play Black Desert, but if you play it, you're going to slowly realize that game is strictly about PvP.
Well then, and that's, I guess, not gating, but that's a reason why the fan base is coming to 14 then. People who are looking for this certain content, not seeing it like, well, Black Desert and Blade and Soul have way too much combat for my taste, but 14's that happy medium where like the models, yeah, they're nice.
Well, that's making
combat, yeah, that's cool.
That's making the assumption that like Black Desert is like going down, but they're releasing the console now, so they're going up. You know what I mean? Yeah, Black Desert's coming out on. It's already had a beta release for Xbox, and I'm pretty sure I read somewhere. Actually, I know I read somewhere that it was going to come out on PS4 soon too. So they're just doing the same thing that 14 did. It's just
the only thing with Black Desert that I hear about it is that it sounds way too grindy and hardcore for the player base of 14.
Well, that kind of player, but the people that don't like casuals and want to actually have a good PvP experience, they go play Black Desert.
And so I think we just see the dichotomies just shifting naturally on their own if that does happen.
Yeah.
So I mean, it probably will just stabilize.
Maybe for a little while, but then that depends on like where the gaming community because the gaming community is kind of fickle.
No, yeah.
Well, not kind of fickle, like super fickle actually. If it ever came out that Yoshi P, like, I don't know, did something crazy, like embezzled some money or something bad like that, everybody'd be like, oh, yo, I knew he was horrible. He's the worst person ever. I hate Yoshi P. I hate him from the beginning. You know what I mean? They'll roast him alive, even though they'll roast him alive typing angrily next to their Yoshi P shrine sitting on their counter.
No, he's just making stuff up.
You know how they get down, man. They did it to Michael Jackson, man. Michael Jackson's a villain! Bought all of his albums, literally has a Michael Jackson afro on their head while they're typing angrily.
No, there are people so passionate about Michael Jackson. They're doing it to R. Kelly. They're not doing it to Michael Jackson, though.
Yeah. Oh, no, they're doing it to Michael?
Not as widespread as Michael Jackson.
Oh, no. Michael Jackson got a documentary release called...
I know about the documentary.
Yeah, he's in that, too.
No, I know about that. I'm just saying that in comparison, isn't there? At least not from what I've heard. People are still, they feel bad. People are more sympathetic. They want the man to just rest. They're just tired of hearing it.
Only because he's dead.
Well, yeah.
If he was alive, he'd wish he was dead.
It'd be a different story.
Yeah.
No, yeah, but. Yeah, people are way more sympathetic towards him because he's passed away, and that's why I mean the outrage for Michael Jackson is not as loud as is R. Kelly.
I'm confused why the outrage for R. Kelly is loud, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean he's been doing it for years and now it's just coming out.
I mean, here's a problem I have with that whole R. Kelly thing. He didn't force any of these girls to do these things. None of them, not a single one. And
doesn't mean it's right because they're underage. They couldn't give consent.
Now, for the ones that were underage, absolutely, that's wrong. But I don't see them taking the underage stance, because the person that's leading the charge is, the girl who did the documentary with her parents and all that junk or whatever. She wasn't underage when that happened. Mm-hmm. It just happened, and she was like, oh yeah, R. Kelly forced us into it. And it was like, no, you wanted to be a groupie and you saw a powerful man and you're like, ooh, if I do what he says, I can live with the king. I can live with R. Kelly, which is R. Kelly is the king of R&B music. So it's just like, oh, I can live with the king of R&B and blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, we see people do it all. It's just clout chasing, man.
Yeah.
So now it's out that now because she didn't get the clout she wanted or whatever she wanted out of the deal. Oh, he forced me. He raped me. Blah blah blah. Yada yada yada. And it's like, granted, he had her do some really weird stuff, really weird, jacked up stuff that
we don't condone any of it.
I'm not R. Kelly's therapist, so I can't really speak on any of that stuff. But those things were all done willingly. Mm-hmm. He never forced him to do those things, but people are blurring the lines and saying like, oh, well, he's a monster and he forced these things on these women. And it's like, no, he asked him to do something, and because they want to get down with R. Kelly, they just did it, and now they feel ashamed. So I don't think that part is fair or right. But
no, I mean, there is a double standard there, but I mean, there are always gonna be opportunists.
Yeah, whole thing's retarded. I hate it, man. Makes me mad. Just because it's not justice. Mm-hmm. I mean, get the man for underage girls. Like, absolutely. Like, he peed on that girl. We all know that.
We all know that.
Okay. So, do you remember the DVDs?
Oh, people trying to get them?
Well, back before the court case even happened. So I have family members that had that R. Kelly sex tape on DVD.
Oh my goodness.
And I actually remember seeing it.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And I don't know what happened, bro, during that court case. All of them must have watched the tape with their eyes closed or whatever. But from what I remember seeing, that was 100% him.
Yeah. And he didn't get convicted.
Not at all. It was.
I mean, it's the Boondocks did it. That was like.
Yeah. All he had was a little black, like. It wasn't even the full mask. It was just over. It was like the Zorro eyes. You know what I mean? It's just so dumb. And then, peeing on girls, and then now he's doing, we find out he does all this weird stuff. It's like, peeing on your significant other is not the most common thing to do, so it's kind of like, it is quote unquote weird. So it kind of fits his MO, so you would think that, you know what I mean? I don't know, yo.
Well, either way, closet's still fire.
Oh yeah. I think it was. I kind of got bored of it after like chapter 17. I was like, all right. There's too many closets.
Like, the beginning is like the midget and like.
Oh, holy crap! It was so good, man. I can't believe it's a midget.
Name was Bridget. Like, oh my goodness.
Oh, yo, and the rhyming in that, man.
The rhyming was really
good. It wasn't cheesy at all, though. It was actually really good.
It was smart.
Yo, do you remember them playing that on the radio?
No, I don't. I listened to it on YouTube. That's how I found it.
So they played it on BET, right? And there would be like new stuff, but if you didn't have like internet at the time or whatever, they started playing chapters on the radio station like every morning. It was the coolest. Like, I would listen to it on the way to school because my mom would be, or my stepmom would be in the car, or we'd be like just like kind of out and about running errands on the weekend. And she turned the radio station and it would be like R. Kelly Trapped in the Closet chapter 3, and I'd be like, oh crap, and we were just in that list. I don't know, it was really cool. Really good idea. R.I.P. R. Kelly and Michael Jackson.
Yeah. Rip.
Yeah, we're not gonna get that Chocolate Factory too.
Oh my gosh. Oh my god.
But yeah, I don't know, man. Square's made some mistakes. They've broken my heart. I hope they, you know, they do show me a little something in Shadowbringers. I'll keep my eyes peeled for it. If not, then I'm just gonna go play Classic and see how that does me. If I enjoy that, then, you know, that'll be my new MMO fix for a little while. And life will go on either way. I wish both companies the best of their success. I don't really want a company to go down, especially one that's some that have done so much good in the world. So, you know.
No, it all comes out of a good place, you know?
It's just being critical because I know they're capable of doing better.
And that's what I was saying before. Like, we only look for the criticisms to care. If we didn't care, we wouldn't even be talking about it.
You don't hear me talking about EA.
You don't care about EA.
I don't got nothing to say. Those dudes are trash. Always been trash. Later. Now, you know, Square, they made a really good MMO at one time. And I need them to get back to that.
We kind of made time quite well.
All right, how do we do? Oh, geez, 3 hours and 13 minutes.
Anything you want to say in closing?
Ooh, can we do like shameless plugs?
Shameless plugs.
Yeah.
Not that many, we have that many plugs, but sure. You
All
can.
right. Yo, man, my name's Black Impact. That's BLVCK_Impact. Check me out on YouTube for, you know, in-depth mental psychological takes on anime and pop culture and just really interesting things. You know, like, comment, subscribe, all that junk, blah blah blah, gang. No, I'm joking. All right, Mr. Kehda, plug it up, my dude. Plug it up.
Plugs.
Yeah, throw them plugs in there, man.
Got all the plugs. Gotta plug the water up. You can find me at Kehda Mercer on YouTube.
Yeah.
That's a Kehda with a KEHDAMERCER.
Yeah.
There you go, right there. You know, don't have much other than that. You know, I get you on your, if you're looking for any of that Persona content, RPG content, right over here. I got you, fam. You know, and at the end of the day, it's just a conversation. You know, two bros just having fun, just talking. Sometimes we get on the real stuff. Sometimes we get on the casual stuff. All right, don't take it too hard. That's all I'm saying. It's always all in good fun.
I feel like the whole Final Fantasy. I don't know if this video does like well. I think I'm gonna have a lot of angry Facebook messages. You stupid black mother! You don't know anything about gaming and Yoshi P and Final Fantasy 14. I looked at your FF logs. You're trash. Top 96%. That's horrible.
Shoot. That's been the chill session. Good night, fam.
Later.